Yeah, no, I understand.
You need to respect everyone's opinions and not laugh at them.
I'm not gonna laugh.
I can laugh.
We can.
No,
we
he's
can,
completely allowed to laugh. Like if he doesn't
If
agree
you
with
want to
my
laugh,
opinions, he's allowed to disrespect me as much as he wants, but he shouldn't expect that I
We
give
should
him
be nice to
an
each
ounce of
other,
respect
though.
back.
I mean,
Well,
But
you're trying to
should
like
be nice.
interrogate me on what it means to be an
thank you for
American,
letting me
and
talk.
no,
we're
I've
all
really
interrupting
enjoyed
each
this.
other. There's a
Thank
lot
you
of people
for,
here. That's the nature of
having me
this.
here.
You're welcome, Lemon Green.
There's a lot. You're trying to like ask me about what it means to be an
Thank you for
American,
letting
and then
me
you're saying,
talk.
"Oh, Canadians were like genociding the natives up till
No,
2003."
you
That's
never
not
let
my
me finish
problem.
my thought, but I'm gonna stop you because you're obviously not gonna have a respectful session with me. So.
Well, I would just like to point out, back to the substantive issues, you were saying how it's dangerous to say that somebody doesn't share our values as an American. But my question would be to a lot of people, and this is the operative question, is what does it mean to be an American? Because, and before we get on to that, I think it's not a rhetorical question, it's an important question. I think a lot of people kind of use that as a gotcha, like, oh, so you think I'm less of an American? But I mean, what actually does that mean? Because I'll tell you that there are a lot of people that come here and they will guilt us over, we're not inclusive enough, or our American identity isn't inclusive enough. But yet at the same time, they're not actually willing to give up their own national identity. I mean, there are cases, you could even go back into the 1990s when you would have even sports contests like a soccer game in LA, and you would have all the Mexican immigrants waving the Mexican flag and cheering against the American team. And it's like, they don't even cheer for our sports teams. Like, they don't wave our flags. And you could see this time and time again. They don't want to accept our language, our values, our customs, our mannerisms, our holidays. But then they'll get bent out of shape when you say, you're not exactly as American. And to me, American citizenship is not what it means to be an American. Being on the American land is not what it means to be an American. And yeah, there are a lot of people in America that are on the land and citizens that I wouldn't consider American. So I don't think there's anything dangerous about that. What's dangerous is that we're losing our country and our way of life. Like if I went to Mexico, I'm Mexican, by the way. My last name is Spanish. If I went to Mexico and got citizenship and lived on the land, I wouldn't be Mexican. I don't speak Spanish. I'm not a part of the culture. I have never lived there. And it could go to any country and that would be the same. But for some reason, America must convert and gel and conform to whoever comes here. And if everybody is an American, nobody is an American. If everyone can be, and there's nothing that has to change, there's nothing that has to adapt, then it means nothing. So that is what's dangerous.
I don't think the Mexicans think of the Mormon ranchers down there as full-blood Mexicans, and that's not even a race thing.
Yeah.
So this is where I partially agree with Nick. And by the way, Nick, everybody on these D-Live things wants me to come, quote unquote, come home.
You're based, bro.
You have the physiognomy. You're big. You're a Chad Groiper. Join us.
Chad Endomorph.
Look, dog, I am my own entity, and I float to where I am. I call myself a conservative. But with that being said, I do agree a little bit. So when you are American, right? You are American. And watch, I'm going to say this, and everybody in the chat goes, "Oh my God, he said it." When you are American, you put American values first. You know what I mean? So that's how it rolls. The same is expected everywhere else in every other country. If I want to be a German, I obviously need to put German values first. It's literally, in my opinion, because like what I believe, it is God, country, and then I got to worry about all the other stuff underneath. And if you're not putting your country or where you call yourself that you say you are, then you're not wherever you from you say are, whether that's American, German, European, yada yada yada, all that other great stuff that doesn't really matter. So
yeah,
I guess. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, my point before was that I find that directly, specifically with First Nations people, I'm not talking about immigration here, I'm talking about First Nations people in my country, the idea that they are less Canadian than just white people here, it's led to a genocide. And so I'm very weary about the idea that certain people are less than
it has nothing to do with like how.
Again, I'm going to ask you to be respectful to me since I respected your time to speak.
Let me hear her out. I want to hear what she's trying to say. So
thank you. But obviously that's happening in my country, even to the point where their land is actively being taken, land that they've had on treaties and that they live on and that they survive on. Um, they're not allowed to leave their reservations, but yet the government doesn't give them things like clean water or electricity. But they're not allowed to leave to go get jobs elsewhere. They're supposed to stay within their communities, and if they leave, they risk facing extreme violence. So I'm obviously not super educated on the topic of like what makes an American, which is partially what I'm trying to understand in this whole debate.
Honestly, me as an American citizen too, because obviously my definition of American is on just respect American citizen to realize, because I feel like politics is such a huge part of American culture, because we have, like, when I say I'm appreciating, I don't know, like Spanish culture, there's like, I mean, Hispanic culture, like there's food and there's
love
the
that food,
music.
boy. Let me tell you something. Continue.
What?
Continue. Sorry, that was a fat moment.
Oh, and then when you're appreciating American culture, it's almost like you have to realize that politics are such a huge part of American culture. So I guess a part of American would be, for me, is respecting other people's opinions and just loving the country as a whole. And I don't believe that your religion should affect how American you are, because that's just dumb and it's borderline fascism. If you're,
I agree, Lucas.
It's not. I'm not saying literal like enforced fascism. It's more like what's the word? Like, oh, you can be an American, but you're not as much American as me because you don't conform to my values and views.
It's not my values; it's the values of the nation, the people as a mass, not just me.
America was built on the idea that I can have this civil discussion with you and I could disagree with you.
But America's not an idea. I think that's the fundamental problem we're
running
into.
America was built on the idea.
But it isn't. And I understand what you're saying, and I get it, but I think there's a big overemphasis that is placed on the civic aspect of America, and that's, I think, where we're getting lost. Because even you talk to Republicans like that political education guy, and he'll say things like, America was built so that, people can come here and refugees can come here and we can all get along. And the thing is that America was not designed. The American government was designed by the founding fathers, but the country was not designed. The country is organic. The country is organic and has been built over time by people coming here and settling and building and fighting and so on. And so when people say that, well, all that America means is like freedom of discussion or something, it ignores, I think, the much deeper complexities of what national identity is comprised of.
Yeah,
why do people stick together in their communities and states and regions and so on? And actually, for a long time, it was race. And American identity is something that has changed over time. It's something that's complex, and different aspects of American identity have had different levels of salience. But for most of America's history, being white was part of American identity, and specifically being English or being Northern European.
Mm-hmm.
And these identities have changed over time. But what we've seen at this point, maybe 50 or 100 years ago more aptly, the identity of America was it was racially white. It was culturally like that Anglo-Protestant culture. Politically, it was the Constitution and all of that. It was English. It was Christianity. And what we've seen in the last 150 years, or 150 to 100 years, is that all the aspects of the culture have been eroded. And so all that is left, America is no longer a Northern European country. It's no longer a white country. The culture has evaporated, English and all that stuff. And all that's really left is the civic and political identity. That doesn't mean that that's all there ever was. That's all that's left after this hollowing out of national identity. And I don't believe that's a good development. I think we have to at least restore the cultural identity, and we'll see if we can make that work, a nation that's defined by its cultural and political values. But I think even that is tricky. I think you need, maybe not everybody needs to be white, but I think you need a racial core for the country too, to anchor the country. Singapore is like this. China is like this. Russia is like this. There are many multiracial countries in the world, but the multiracial countries that exist and survive are ones with a racial core. In Russia, it's the Russians. They've got Tatars and they've got steppe people. In Central Asia, they've got Asiatics, but the cultural core is Moscow. It's the European Western part. It's the Russians. In China, it's the Han core in the East. right? And so the problem is that we have no cultural core. We have no ethnic or population core. And when that happens, you see the development of several nations within a country, which is to say that you'll have the Southwest, which is going to be Hispanic. You'll have the Pacific coast, which will be lots of Asians. You'll have the Southeast, which will be lots of blacks. Whites will be sort of scattered, obviously, all over. And at that point, you don't really have any coherent thing that says, well, this is a single coherent whole, which is America. You have a lot of different things going on. And that's, I think, what everybody's trying to avoid. That would be chaos.
And before anybody says anything, like I don't, obviously, like I said before, I don't agree everything that Nick says, but some of the stuff that brings up is stuff that I do believe in. But before anyone says anything racist about the white thing, I'm not saying anybody will. I will pay you $5 if you go over to like Europe, like London, ask them what the stereotypical American is, and they don't give you an example of some big fat white country dude.
Yep.
I also want to interject. There's a large misconception, especially people from the Anglosphere, specifically America and Canada, that most countries have a birthright citizenship. And this is not true, especially in the first world. Most countries, especially European ones, you have the citizenship of your parents. Being born in a country, you will be deported as a baby with your parents because you don't have a right to live there just because your mother happened to give birth on someone else's land. And
Okay.
I think that's a very fair standard, to be honest.
So there's a lot to unpack before anyone else says anything, because I feel like a lot was just thrown.
I'm going to go after you, Lucas.
Okay, so I guess you were talking, Nick, you were talking about American culture and how it's kind of changed over time. And what I think is so beautiful, I think what is so beautiful about America is that it changes and the culture has changed. But I think where we're struggling at this point is we don't even know what American culture is. We cannot um,
Kind of a problem,
identify
though.
or define an American, because an American can mean anything. And I think that's the issue with.
But should it?
And then I don't know. I guess the problem I have with you saying that America was originally white was that well, yes, citizens were white, but there was also black slaves and Native Americans that lived on America. So I think it was more diverse, but no one was considered an American unless you were white.
Native Americans actually fall under, I think, Caucasian, though. So, which.
Oh, but America's not the continent. America is the nation, you know. So people say like, oh, well, they were here first. And it's like, sure. I mean, you had Native Americans on Long Island, but it wasn't Long Island, New York. It was, you know, whatever was a Native American language, and they're, you know, running around in loincloths. We made America, you know, they didn't even know what America was until we
No, I'm
called
not
it that.
denying
Until
that. I'm
we
just
put it
saying
on a
that
map.
they lived on American, well, what was considered American soil at the time, that lived in the 13 colonies. And I guess my more point was the black slaves. So you can say that, yes, Americans were considered all white and Anglo, but there were slaves that they were just not considered people, and they weren't allowed to participate and contribute to the American culture. And I think that's the issue, is that now that they are citizens and they have the same fundamental rights as we do, that they never got to contribute to the culture. So I think that's kind of another issue.
Lucas, oh wait, oh my bad. I didn't want to interrupt.
Trey, yeah, Lucas. Is that what you're gonna
Yeah,
say?
that's all.
All right, Trey, you say this, and then we're gonna try and move on.
Sorry,
So-
Boppity wants to be unmuted. He's been DMing me about it. Sorry.
I'll
Continue.
work.
Thank you. I heard a couple points throughout this. I've been trying to keep quiet, let everybody else talk, but I wanted to discuss the point of having a race majority in America. I believe Nick mentioned that, if I misspoke, but the importance of having a majority race, and I personally don't believe that matters. I think that, you know, everybody is the same. Just because someone has different color skin than somebody else doesn't really make a difference. Actually, it doesn't really make a difference. It doesn't make a difference. And I think that, you know, we're all really the same people. I mean, you know, I have friends of all different backgrounds and all different colors. And look, I'm gonna be honest. There are great people of all different colors. There are American people of all different colors, and I personally do not believe that the color of your skin has any effect. And also, before I stop, I believe that what it is to be an American is to be a citizen of America. I believe that you should practice American values and that you should support American values, but by definition, being an American is being a citizen of America, regardless of your background or who you support politically.
Anyway, you were on I think you were on the Zoom when I think it was based Catholic or someone. He brought up the Putnam studies from Bowling alone and a couple other papers. Diversity, ethnic diversity, decreases social capital. It makes low trust societies you don't want to live in, like the favelas in Brazil. You may say that you can love an individual who's of a different race, and of course you can. And of course there's great people in this country who aren't just white. I mean, specifically in the America First movement, there's people like Justin KG and JD, who I don't want to use as tokens, but they are truly my friends. Like, we play Animal Crossing all the time together.
Oh my God!
And
that game.
yeah, shut up. But my point is, no one's saying that you should like judge an individual based on something they didn't choose. But the security and the continuation of a nation is not like some like hippie lovey, oh, let's be nice and hold hands, kumbaya, because the people we're letting in don't think that way. They think in racial terms. And if you're saying we shouldn't think in racial terms or in ethnic terms, but they do, right? They create their own enclaves in the country. You can see that in certain districts of New York. Like I brought up the little Somalia in Minnesota. These other people do. And it's not conducive to a society that wants to maintain itself if you're throwing away the core, if you're throwing away social capital, if you're making a low trust society in the name of not judging people based on physical attributes.
I totally see what you're saying. And look, I don't think that what they're doing is right either. I think that, nobody should be racist, regardless of whether you're immigrating here or you've been here. I don't agree with them doing that either. I am not hypocritical at all. I think that we should all practice the same things, whether you're immigrating here or you're not immigrating here. And I will never support racism. And I don't think that the color of your skin matters at all.
All right, so we've had a lot of good points of this question. Thank you for the question, Lemon. You definitely sparked a lot of things that went away from the question. But all right, so
I also want to apologize to Lemon and Lucas. I'm not trying to interrupt, but there's just so many people here, and sometimes I think I've caught a pause, and I'm incorrect. You were just like thinking, so I didn't mean to interrupt.
It's okay.
All right. Thank you for that's very respectful of HW. Let you put your mask back. I'll let you put your mask back on, play with your wooden guns. All right. Yeah. All right. You do that. I got my actual Glock. Yeah, I'm scared of you. Okay. Technically I could testify that I think that's a real gun. If you step on my property, I'll put a 7mm through your dome. All right. Moving on. All right. KP the Patriot. What's up?
Hello. Okay. There are so many things I wish I could have added to some of these things, but number one, thank you for letting me ask a question. So something you can call me uneducated if you want to, but the amount of political
I don't read anything bigger than that. So if that's even a little too big, so you say you're uneducated. I'm pretty simple-minded.
Okay. All right. So to me, the amount of political affiliations is like the gender spectrum. Like, there are so many of them. Well, the gender spectrum. And I am not sure what paleoconservatism is. So I don't know if anybody on here is I've been told that they believe in a theocracy, which I disagree with because I think separation of church and state. But I don't know if that's true. So if anybody on here is a paleoconservative, or if anybody knows what that is, I would love it if you could explain that to me, because I am uneducated in that aspect.
Ooh.
Yeah, I could take this question. I'm a
I was about to say we have King Paleoconservative himself in
the Well,
so there's actually a little bit of history involved, which is you kind of have to go back to like where modern conservatism originates in America, which is in the aftermath of World War II.
I'm gonna empty my spirit and nobody kill each other.
What's that? Oh, okay. Yeah, so after World War II, you have the real emergence of kind of like two conservative traditions. And this culminates in the creation of the National Review and the John Birch Society. And so this is where a lot of this begins. I'm going to try and simplify it so I can answer the question in an expeditious way. But if you really want to understand the roots for this, that's where you have to look, is John Birch versus National Review. And long story short, on the John Birch side and on this more old right kind of spectrum, You've got people that believe that America is a nation of people, of land, this kind of thing. And National Review is really where you see the beginning of this liberal strain of conservatism, that, well, actually, conservatism is about classical liberalism. It's about free markets. It's about small government and so on. So the John Birchers all got ostracized out of the conservative movement. William F. Buckley fired them from the magazine. He totally kicked them out of the conservative movement. This happened in the 50s and 60s. You had another instance of this conflict in the 1980s and the 1990s. This was the advent of the neocons and the paleocons. And so the neocons, the origin of the neoconservatives is these guys were Trotskyites. They were actually leftists in the 1950s and 60s. But what happened in the 1970s is that there was a war between Israel and Palestine, of course. And the Soviet Union was backing the Palestinians, and the United States, Richard Nixon, he saved the Israelis. And so those Trotskyites, those old leftists, said, well, hey, wait a second, we're pro-Israel. A lot of them were Jewish, by the way. Trotsky was Jewish. His name was Lev Bronstein. They said, well, we want to protect Israel. We see the Jewish national interest. So we are leftists, but we're going to become cold warriors. We're going to become war hawks. We need to take down the Soviet Union. This is where you get this very hawkish, this combination of sort of left-wing cultural, social, and political ideology, but with a hawkish foreign policy. So in the 1980s and the 1990s, there was a big conflict between people like Bill Kristol and like William, well, he kind of originated here, William F. Buckley, all these characters. And they basically exiled all the paleocons like Pat Buchanan, Sam Francis, and so on, who were in some cases writing for National Review or were just on the scene, who were far more socially conservative than they were free market people, or they were cold warriors or anything like that. So that was really the genesis of the conflict. But the reason, I'm oversimplifying a lot of that, but the reason I bring it up is because what I'm trying to say is the people that have inherited conservatism in the past 40 years have been the neocons. The people that have taken over and defined conservatism are people that are in favor of free markets and small government and low taxes and foreign wars. And the people that have been buried, essentially ostracized from the movement and forgotten by history and not venerated, and their books are out of print, are the social conservatives, the paleocons, people like Pat Buchanan and all the rest, who said that what conservatism really means is actually, it's more about maintaining the social fabric. It's actually more about order. It's actually about having a stable, predictable, safe country than it is about creative destruction and hyper-capitalism and all this. And so the reason that people don't know about it is because the conservatives throughout the post-war era in America have been constantly firing, blacklisting, ostracizing, and all the rest to the paleocons. But that is a legitimate, valid form of conservatism that was fighting against the modern interpretation for 70 years. And paleocons define themselves as being anti-war. We want to, if you read Pat Buchanan, he wants to make America a republic, not an empire. We want to stop immigration. We want to rebuild the family, and the family being one man, one woman, right? A mother and a father and lots of children. And so it's really defined by its social conservatism more than it is those other aspects.
Okay. So that makes sense. That gives me a better picture of it. So I guess like another question I have is, do paleoconservatives believe in the separation of church and state, that the government shouldn't be telling what the church and like different religions to do, and the church shouldn't be involved in the government? Do they believe in that, or do they believe in a theocracy?
Well, I hear this a lot, and I've heard this a lot in the Zoom calls about this separation of church and state. And honestly, this is like one of the most misunderstood doctrines in American history. People think that, well, number one, the separation of church and state is not in the Constitution. It's not in the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah.
This was in like a letter. But the point of the origins of that was so that the government would not be married to the church, and then actually corrupting the church was the problem. What people interpret it now to mean is that if you are a legislator and you're informed by your religion, then that is somehow wrong. Or, the government might have prayer in public schools, but none of these things really violate the separation of church and state. It's talking about institutionally the separation of the institution of a church and the institution of government. But it doesn't mean that if you're a Christian that you're not going to legislate based on your morality, because of course all law is informed by morality. Every decision, our entire worldview is informed by our religious beliefs. So, for example, like when I look at something like abortion, I think abortion should be illegal because it's immoral. When I look at gay marriage, I think you should not have it because that's not marriage to me. Marriage to me is between one man and one woman. A lot of people like libertarians and classical liberals and neocons will say, well, we have a separation of church and state. Marriage is now a state or a secular institution. So, to inform our religious, to have our law informed by religious beliefs on that is theocracy. But I disagree. So it's not that we want theocracy is when church is the government, when the religious authorities are the state government. We don't want that. We just want our laws to reflect our morality, and specifically the historic Christian morality of America.
Yeah. And going back to what you said about like the gay marriage and everything and how people say that like it's a theocracy. One of like the biggest things that I am concerned with or that I find interesting and worry about is that the fact that some people think that it should be mandatory for a priest or a minister to wed a same-sex couple. Because personally,
No, I'm gay.
I disagree with same-sex marriage. I mean, it doesn't affect me, and I have no problem saying that because it's my beliefs and it's my faith, and I'm proud of it. But I do not think that any religious leader should be forced to wed a gay couple if it goes against their religious beliefs because you're asking them to put their morals to the side. And that's why I like the separation of church and state. But that's one thing that's like concerning whenever people are saying that we shouldn't have a separation of church and state.
As like a gay man, completely agree with the fact that we should never force like a priest or a pastor or any religious figure to marry, because that goes against everything I'm personally for. I believe marriage in the legality sense is just letting the state know that you're like more like committing your life to each other. But in religious, in Christianity, it means a whole lot more. It's a lot deeper. It's and gay marriage just is not a part of Christianity. It ever has been, and it isn't right now. So I just don't see the reason that people are trying to force pastors and priests to.
Yeah, like I don't think the government should have a say in who can get married to who, but I also don't I don't think that the government should also have a say in like what priests and religious figures are supposed to do in the church either.
I would say so. This is what I did. You hear a bunch of opinions, and I'm not discrediting anyone else's opinion. You say you're not really well educated. I wasn't either. Do your own research and then formulate your own opinion. Now,
I'm like well rounded on most things, but the whole political spectrum, it's like there's a million and one of political affiliations. I don't know what the hell they are. So I know like the basic ones, but I just wanted to ask about paleoconservatism because I had no clue what that was.
I mean, do you think that your faith leads to a lot of decisions you make politically?
No, when it comes to abortion, that's part of it, but most of it, it's not so much my faith, it's so much the research that I've done. And because I mean, I haven't been raised in a very political household, so I formulated my opinions myself by research, not by my faith.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess I do a little bit of both, but at the end of the day, my faith takes over my research. You know what I mean? And if they align, they align. But yeah, so that was a good question to have someone completely define paleoconservatism.
Thank you for answering my question. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, also, can we unmute Haley? He's a friend of mine.
Is that JD?
That is Jaden.
Okay, yeah, they've been trying to get me to unmute him, but who said, "Hey, fatty"?
I did. I just wanted to say real quick that I'm signing off. It's been fun answering questions with you, and take it easy, everybody. Have a good night.
See you, Trey.
Good night.
See you around, fatty. See you, Lucas.
Don't let me sneak up in your bedroom at night. I'm the boogeyman. All right. All right. Yeah. Where's Haley? My thing is. All right.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
Is this the dude whose stream I was looking at?
Yeah. Also, can you unmute Jacob Lloyd? I'm
not gonna go through and unmute a bunch of people. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I'm sorry.
He worked for InfoWars. He doesn't want to, Jake.
I can. Let me get a question started and then I'll think about it. I'll give it a fair shake. All right. Oh Jesus, I'm scared to ask this. I'm scared to unmute this dude because of his name.
Well, don't. If it's on optical, don't do it because I'm streaming.
Okay. Well, full send around here these parts, boys. Let's just say if you say something stupid, I'm gonna mute you and then I will bully you. All right. Thought Buster.
That's not bad.
69.
All
What's
right.
up?
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
All right, dope. So thank you for having me on here. Thank you for unmuting me. So I just recently became pro-life. Like about like a month and a half ago, I was like a libertarian who was like personally pro-life, politically pro-choice, but then like I started listening to like other like political people like Nick Fuentes. So I'm proud to say I'm pro-life now. So thanks, Nick. I appreciate that. But my
Based?
question, thank you. I appreciate that. But my question now is I'm trying to like educate myself on like the pro-life movement because I'm proud to say I'm pro-life now. But I know a lot of people will probably agree, but like the abortionists, like assuming that like Roe v. Wade gets overturned and like abortion's made illegal, like assuming that a woman decides to get an abortion and the abortion is conducted and the woman is found out, I think we all agree the abortionist should get sent to prison for murder because I mean it's fucking murder. But what should be done with the woman who got the abortion like conducted on her?
Jail.
You know, there's something, isn't there a law accessory to murder or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think somewhere along that lines.
Yeah.
Hey.
agree.
Because if it is a rule, a law, it's illegal, you're breaking the law. So obviously there's gonna be some what hey, for anyone holding up their screen up to their phone up to the screen, it's backwards, my guy. Just trying to, yeah. All right, but yeah, no, if you're breaking a law of some sort, I think it could possibly, if it's at that stage, be along the lines of accessory to murder or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely see where you're coming from. I mean, from my perspective, I think like the main purpose of the pro-life movement is to like convince women and show them why abortion is wrong and why it's mentally it's morally reprehensible and it's a terrible thing. And I think that should be like what the pro-life movement should be based on. But I do still think the women should be held accountable. So, like you said, I definitely think that accessory to murder, something like that. I think again, the abortionist should be like tried for murder, but
Jesus
I'm still
Christ.
I'm still trying to educate myself on this kind of stuff. So yeah, thank you. I
I
appreciate it.
actually do have a question about abortion. In a situation, I don't know if it's different for the pro-life movement because I'm really uneducated on the pro-life movement. Is there any situation where abortion would be legal? I'm super confused about that.
The only exception, I mean, for me, the only exception should be when the woman's life is in danger. I know some people believe in like the rape exception and the incest exception. I don't believe in either of those. Okay, just because just because something terrible happened to you doesn't make the value of the life inside the womb any less valuable, regardless of what happened to you. There's still like a life living in the womb, and the baby's life still matters regardless. So again, I think the only time abortion should be allowed is when the woman's life is in danger, but I don't think anybody considers that to be abortion. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Also, real quick, on a side note, it has nothing to do with this. Jaden, whoever in your chat called me a fat ass, it's fatty. I'm thick with 5 C's.
I'm not even watching chat. I apologize. They'll be banned. They
So,
will be
no,
banned.
whoever is in there,
How do
whoever
we
is
do
in
that?
there, Sheriff.
You hear that, chat? You hear
Sheriff
that? Fatty's gonna beat your ass.
I have a phrase I use quite often, and a lot of people know it. Look, I kill you. I don't care. I will go 25 years of life. I've lived a good 19 years on this earth. I know where I'm going when I die. So I kill you. I don't care. All right.
Based.
Is it cool if I ask one more question? I know like I'm allowed to ask one, but I want one for
Yeah.
I want to ask a question for Nick. So, Nick, I started watching your show a few months ago. I really like it. You're doing good stuff, Nick. So I like all the work you do.
Thank you.
I've been watching some of your debates, and I know you mentioned that in high school you used to be a libertarian, and so I'm kind of curious, like, what was there like a specific event or like something that pushed you to being from a libertarian to being a paleo conservative? Like, what made you want to become a paleo con?
Well, it was sort of a culmination of events during the election, but the biggest thing to me is that when I was in high school, I was a libertarian. And the reason why is because the economics of it made sense to me, and I still largely believe in a lot of the economic principles. And even things like free trade, like my understanding of free trade hasn't changed in the sense that, free trade is going to create like short-term benefit or whatever, but just looking at it from a different angle about producers and consumption versus production and balance of payments. Anyway, so what I always thought though when I was libertarian is I could never answer this for myself. I would say to myself, why is liberty the highest governing principle? I always would say, well, it's about individual liberty, and individual liberty is great because it's our maximizing our economic potential, blah, blah, blah. But I could never answer for myself morally why liberty was the highest principle. And when I got to college, and the more that I saw what was happening with immigration and voting patterns, I got really into the election, and I don't know if I could go through all of this quickly, but my first realization was the relationship between media and government. I said, the media is so controlled and it's so left wing that no matter who's going to be president from the Republican ticket, out of all the candidates, they're going to have a really hard time because the media is controlling everything. I said, so initially I went from Ted Cruz, the constitutionalist, to Donald Trump, not even because I like Donald Trump's policies, but because I said he can fight back against the media. So there's sort of this institutional consciousness that, maybe Trump isn't with me on the policies, but he can fight the media, and you need that in a president. And then I saw the voting patterns, and I would look at the different states and say, okay, how is Trump going to get to 270? What's the map going to look like? And I looked at state after state, and the problem that I was seeing, it was the demographics. I looked at a graphic on poll, and it said, here's if only white people voted, here's if only blacks voted, here's if only women voted, et cetera. And the only map where Donald Trump is winning is the white man map, not the women map, not the black map, not the whatever. And I said, well, I know that the Republican policies are the ones that work fiscally and every other way. Democrat policies are insane. So the only people that are getting it right are the white people. So something has to be done about immigration just for that. If we want to fight for life and for our rights and for economic liberty and so on, we need to shut down immigration. And then I went to college. This is the last thing. I went to college, and I was just exposed to so many leftists. I went to this Antifa march the night before the inauguration, and there was this huge black bloc going down the street, smashing cars, threatening people. And just some guy came up to me. I was wearing a MAGA hat, and he said, we're going to string you up from a lamppost. And we almost got in a big fight. And I realized in that moment, just seeing that march and thinking about leftists, it's particularly about women, actually. I said, you look at these screaming banshee leftist women, and facts and logic aren't going to win these people over. You're not going to debate these people out of their positions. And Antifa, you're not going to sit them down and explain to them the Laffer curve and everything. At a certain point, these people have to just be put in jail. These people that are just going through the streets and destroying stuff, they just have to be arrested. My realization fundamentally was we are not going to win the culture war by having arguments. At a certain point, we have to win over enough people that we could gain power and then use power to achieve our interests. And then, that those realizations along the way basically just made me very skeptical of the idea of liberty, of democracy, of republicanism. It really made more sense to me that we needed politics that's driven by goals and interests than really by principles. We want to just make the country good. We want people to be virtuous. We want them to be safe. We want to design a system that is enduring. And those objectives, overriding them all, being order, they supersede the need for liberty. Because if we bank it all on liberty right now, it's all going to go away. We won't even live in a safe or a democratic or an equal country. We're just going to live in chaos. So first you need order, and then comes the other stuff. And that was the realization. I know that was kind of long, but because I was a serious libertarian. All these people that are telling me, I've been watching on TikTok, they're talking about Bastiat and Rousseau and Hobbes and Locke and John Adams and Milton Friedman. I've read all that. Thomas Sowell, I've read all that. I've watched all that. I'm over it. I thought it was the end all be all when I was in high school. But then, I read more books. I read Burke, I read de Maistre, I read, illiberal types, and then I came full circle. So.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah,
Right.
definitely I'm in my senior year of high school right now. And going into my senior year, I was also a libertarian. But, after watching your show, I'm I think this guy makes a lot of good points because I noticed that the conservative movement's definitely becoming they're definitely sitting more to the left, because 10 years ago, gay marriage was a big thing. And now you have people like Charlie Kirk and Rob Smith that are pro gay marriage and everything. And so it definitely made me start thinking. And so I think the thing that I've got the most from your streams are condoning and platforming degeneracy only breeds further degeneracy. And I think that's definitely something I'm gonna learn. So I appreciate all the work you do. You're doing good stuff. So thank you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
I've noticed a few people physically raising their hands for a while, like
No, yeah, I'm gonna go down.
Timia and Tori. I don't. They both have been like raising their hands like physically for like probably like half an hour or so. And
Yeah, no, I get it. So the rule, Timmy, I was gonna unmute you because I've literally been looking at you raise your hand for the past 30 minutes, and while it's been entertaining to see the blood fall out of your fingers, I'm gonna fix that. But the rule of the Zoom is this: raise your hand on the Zoom thing. Because, like I said, when you're doing this little number right here, it looks like you're doing a Nazi wave, and I'm just gonna stare at the fingers fall out or the blood fall out of your fingers for my entertainment. So trust me, I've seen it. There's one dude's hand was as white as this shirt. All right. Yeah. Is it Timia?
All right. Well,
Is that how you pronounce your name?
Maya.
Okay. Well, all right.
So I don't know. I came on the Zoom. I'm like kind of freaked out. There's a lot of MAGA hats, but I'm gonna tame myself because obviously you guys are like really. I don't know. I think
breathe. We ain't gonna kill you. Well, I might, but
I don't know. All right. As a a first generation Jewish daughter of immigrants, yada yada, whole thing. My parents were my dad basically fled communist Hungary to Germany when he was a little kid. And so, I took a few tests recently. I took multiple political axis tests. I took the original one. Then I took one and I got democratic socialism, which, I was a little confused on because, I didn't really agree with all of Bernie's stuff. And I don't know, I'm just, I'm a centrist on some stuff. And yeah.
You're not a barb, are you?
Oh, no, I'm not.
I'm a barb, but I'm not like the death threat barb. I just like Nicki Minaj.
I'm not
I just like Nicki Minaj. That's the only thing that makes me a barb.
Yeah, I know. I just like Nicki Minaj. That's it. So I took this test where it was like left values, and I got centrist Marxism, and I was so scared / confused because I was like, first of all, my dad's gonna kill me because no, he's been through hell and freaking back. But my question for you, Fatty, is like, at what point do you consider like the left side to be communist? Like, at what degree? I mean, you could say Bernie Bros, right? You can say it. But like, what like specific, morals?
So, okay. So one, let me address something. I don't like the political compass test. I think people take them and then they let that lead to what they should think.
Yeah.
That's what this says. Like, I get different things, and that might just because they use a lot of large words that I cannot read. But so to answer the actual question, so okay, for me, socialism is is the bottom step in the staircase to communism. In most countries, you don't see communism. They say, oh, well, they're socialists, they're not communists. Well, that's because it failed. Someone took a step on the bottom step and tripped and fell and busted their face. Like, it doesn't, so I consider when you start to get into communism is when you start like, oh, we're gonna tiptoe a little bit into socialism. Like, we have obviously socialism practices in our government, right? We have social security checks, all that great stuff. Just more numbers I gotta memorize. But I think communism starts to take birth and is conceived in socialism, and then you just go from there. So I don't know if that answers your question or not. There's probably a bunch of other people that have different opinions, but
it's just crazy to me. And like, I don't know, I was hearing how what's his name, HW is talking about what makes us American. I'm not going to dive back into that at all, but like, I don't know, I feel like I'm not all for progressivism or whatever, but I do know that like, if you trace any sort of big popular thing back into this country, it's going to go back to immigrants. And, you go back to whatever. And so I don't know. I just.
Yeah, it's the tough thing to say to say people like, I certainly ain't, my family ain't full-fledged American, obviously. And, I don't have, unlike Elizabeth Warren, who has like what is it, 1 in 300 million% Native
Native
American.
American.
I ain't that, you know what I mean?
Harvard. No, I don't know. I don't know. I see a lot of assumptions on TikTok about.
I just get on TikTok to make kind of funny stuff. That's all it really is. And then hope not to get blocked. So
It's nice to see, people getting along like this, especially teenagers. I mean, I'm like looking at this and it's like MAGA hats. And I'm like,
so okay, let me ask you this. What do you have against MAGA hats? Let me hear.
Literally nothing. Literally, I mean, okay, I just feel like it's slightly culty, but I don't mean it in a mean way. I don't mean it in a, don't yell at me, please.
I'm not going to say that Bernie Bros aren't just as culty.
They
because
are.
they are.
They are.
I swear to God. It's like the Bernie Bros and the Trump supporters are these cults, and they're these leaders, and they'll just like blindly support
a little
them.
scary. But
all right, y'all calm down in Jaden's chat now. That's a little freaky.
Oh, no, I'm not. I don't mean anything.
Don't worry about it.
It's just like my brain.
Chat, calm down.
I'm a very active policy debater.
Yeah, where are my mods? Mods?
Right, I hear you. There's just like 300
How
things.
do we see this chat? How do we get to it?
It doesn't matter. You don't need to get to it.
Don't worry. I'm fairly sure.
I know people are probably saying stuff.
No, it's fine.
But I don't really care.
But to me, so wait.
On the political compass, because it will tell me like I'm like an anarcho-communist. I'm like, what? Democracy is one of the most important things to me. I'm like, what? Because I'll like. I don't know. It's just I know I researched that test. Apparently it's super. It like will put you three spots down, and three spots. It's super prone to putting you into the libertarian left square over.
Yeah, of course.
So it will just like push you down, I guess. But I don't know. It's just.
I think making any decision politically off of a compass test is just a poor decision. And I'm not saying that you are, but it's
fun to take. It's fun to think about that kind of stuff.
It's fun to look at. It might depress you. It might shock you. But at the end of the day, it's a stupid little computer thing that has a lot of large words that I cannot read.
Based. This guy's based, man.
It's
You're
honestly
based, fatty.
Big fan of based fatty.
I'm a fan.
Honestly,
I must stand.
Everybody.
It's hard for me to even consider. I don't know. I don't really consider myself American. I don't know. I'm trilingual and like I feel kind of, and I know a lot of you guys are gonna get mad. I know it, but
I don't get mad at nobody.
Cosmopolitan.
I feel kind of like
sort of international.
You feel like an outcast. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I live in Montana.
Right.
I live in Montana, and the fucking
Montana's like that's the South, but in the North. Like, how do you not feel American in Montana?
Oh, it's the same thing in upstate New York. It's like basically the deep South here.
It's very very divided here, and I just wish I could say that I feel American, but I don't.
What do you not feel? Okay, so let me ask you this: do you have any faith of any kind? I'm
Jewish.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm modern Jewish, kind of.
That kind of killed my argument. All right, so do you hold a sense of pride for your country, right? Like, do you put, oh my God, I'm gonna say it again, and everyone in the chat and everyone's gonna be freaking out. Where's America's based? Would you put your country, would you put America first, right? Would you put your country first? Would you have pride in your country?
But like, in what context? It depends on what.
Are you gonna would you rather see the health of America come first before any other little country that has like 500 different consonants in it?
I'd rather that. I'd rather the second thing that you said. I'd rather.
I wouldn't. I actually have an I Love Israel flag right there.
Oh,
yeah.
based?
I don't want to get into the Israel-Palestine thing is so difficult, and it's so confusing for me too, because I did my trip there for my whatever it's called, and
did you see the tank that was sitting across the river?
I saw both. I went to Gaza. I was like, oh my God. It was scary. Like, I love Israel with all my heart, but it's scary. It's all of it's scary, and just I don't know what I am. Like, am I should I consider myself American? Like that's fucking.
You seem pretty American. I don't
I don't know. I see where
know.
she's coming from. I completely
I
get it.
guess.
I understand completely where she's coming from.
I mean, I guess if you're not American, you can leave. I'm playing. I'm totally playing. Someone's gonna clip it. And like, oh my god.
Fine. It's fine. I mean, if Trump wins again, I'm out. But
Where to?
Well, you
Only
might
for
as
the
well start
best.
buying your
I'm
tickets
going back
now
to my
because
country.
that's
Hungry.
Can we go to the other girl that's been raising her hand
I
physically?
don't know, dude. I got 40 different questions here. I'm
All
gonna
right. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you too. All right. Okay. Bay Area. Oh shoot. Bay Area Republican. What it do?
So I just have a few things that I wanted to say before asking my question. The question's really quick, so it's not that big of a deal. But in the previous thing at the beginning, I think when HW started talking, I think about the Minnesota incident, he was talking about how the immigrants are like pushing for the blue, like pushing for a blue state and like the radical ideas. Like, am I right?
Thumbs up, HW. Thumbs down. All right. I guess I can unmute you. All right. Thumbs up. Okay. Yeah, that's close. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so that I was just saying because I think like what I'm saying is right, that a reason that Donald Trump won Florida in the 2016 election is because Cuban immigrants voted red, which helped him in numbers gaining those electoral votes.
There are exceptions to the rules. Obviously, Cuban. Oh, hold on, HW. I get to you. There are exceptions to the rules. You know what I mean? Not every immigrant's going to vote blue. No, but do the overwhelming majority do? Yes. Like obviously, people from socialist countries that are escaping socialism, I doubt are going to want to vote for socialist policies again. Cubans have gone through straight up actual communism aren't probably going to vote for anything that'll lead them back towards communism again. So there are exceptions to the rules, but the vast majority don't. HW, what do you want?
I mean, I was not giving the thumbs up immediately because it's not specifically that they're going blue. In many cases, immigrants do vote blue. It's more that they're thinking and voting in their own ethnic interests. And that's why a lot of Cubans actually vote conservatively, is because we have a special relationship with Cuba and the way we take people who have been like, it's almost like a form of refugee status. But that's all I want to say is that it's not that they're necessarily voting blue. It's that they're voting in their ethnic interest, and we imported people into Minnesota who are not from Minnesota and have drastically changed Minnesota because of that.
Oh my God, this dude in the waiting room's name. Okay.
All right.
Sorry, but yeah, does that answer your question at all, or?
Yeah, it does. And then my question, I guess, is I don't think we've talked about it that much about, I guess, the environment. Like, what is your idea on like electric cars versus like regular like gas using cars?
I don't think you're gonna like my opinion. Just
Oh,
gonna be
I
honest.
think I will.
I've
I
never
live in
driven an
a.
electric car in my life, dog. I'd rather walk.
Neither have we. My
Yeah,
whole family never. I
dog.
live in a very liberal area.
I don't even drive a gasser. Like I got a diesel that rolls coal, and then my secondary option is a 1981 AM or 1989 AM General Humvee that pumps out diesel as well. Which
Nice.
actually we're not killing as many of the ozone as everyone else. Plus, I think people when they talk about like this is a clean energy deal, you know, environment, like the clean energy solutions tend to damage the environment more. Like if you look at the wind turbines, dude, they whack out more birds than duck hunters in Arkansas do during duck season. So you just gotta. It's a weird thing because everyone's like, we need to fix our environment, and then they try to fix the environment, and it's like picking your scab. It's just never gonna heal because you just keep doing stupid stuff to it. So I
think the problem with that is there's people like that. They're like, I love the environment. I'm gonna buy a metal straw and I'm gonna drive an electric car. So I think that's the issue with like that's the perception of people that care about the environment. When I did what I could. I mean, I'm a dependent. I can't really like change my entire life to be completely environmental friendly. So all I could do was stop support. I switched to supporting local businesses for my food and that kind of stuff. And I think the best solution would just kind of be to try to get larger corporations to transition over to clean energy, because I mean more like solar energy, but
the problem you run into with solar energy though is you're destroying the environment looking for the batteries for it.
That's true.
I
There's
don't
lots
think
of,
there's
there's
one
lots of solutions, and we haven't really figured out what is going to work the best. But I think we can all acknowledge that we aren't really treating the earth like we
actually
should.
it ain't even us. It's not even America that
No, I
damages
mean the human race. Like we aren't giving the earth what like.
I mean, I guess.
China.
Yeah, fuck China, right? Just kidding, D-Live, just kidding.
Dude, they ate one bat, and I'm stuck at home with my brains falling out of my ears. So.
Fatty, am I getting this right? You live in Louisiana?
No. I live, and go ahead, dox me, try me. Tennessee.
Oh, Tennessee. Okay, well then you're lucky. You're living in one of the states right now who's coming out early, correct?
I mean, honestly, with a part of Tennessee I lived in, you couldn't even tell there's a quarantine. So.
Well, I live in North California near San Francisco, so I'm in one of the states who probably won't come out of quarantine until 2022.
I should have been.
So I completely agree.
Yeah, I think we are. I guess you could say damaging the earth, but everything we do will damage the earth, and no one has yet found. I'm just going back to Lucas. I'm sorry, I completely switched subjects. No one has found something that will help the earth rather than actually damage it more. So
We just gotta. I think we should be investing in research, and that's all we can really do at this moment.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have the money to invest. We're currently trying to bail out a bunch of people that are screaming for money and then turn around and spend their stimulus checks on luxury items instead of rent and whatnot. So we're so screwed up from the floor up, to be honest with you. All right, is that all you had, Bear?
Yeah.
All right, appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. Tam, wait, hold on. Yeah, Tam, you're unmuted.
Oh, hey.
Howdy.
Okay, sorry. I'm really like, once I get on here, I get all awkward and stuff. But what I wanted to say was, do you guys agree with military spending? Like more military spending?
Yeah.
I believe in cutting down on military spending and ending all unnecessary involvement in the regime change wars taking place in the Middle East. I mean, but I think I'm the minority here.
We need a strong military because every day.
Yeah, we do. I just believe in cutting down because we're spending like
we're spending like 400 billion like a year.
I think it's closer to 700 billion. Yeah. I think
that's like
what is it? If you combine the top out of the top four, the second, third, and fourth, they aren't even like as much as we're spending. I just think it's an unnecessary amount. Obviously, I realize that you need a military to defend your country. I just don't think we're not in a point where any American is really being directly put in danger. So I don't think
I'm against the wars, but I'm in favor of the spending.
Yeah, that's what kind of I stand on it. Like we need it. Like most of the reason that people don't mess with us is one, we have these two great natural borders that come in the form of oceans, and two, because if you try to, we'll literally wipe you off the map. So
yeah.
At that point, it's I wouldn't.
You'll make your country accept gay marriage. Humiliation, defeat.
But literally, like we have. But on a real note, like you see, like North Korea is like trying to test like nuclear rockets, and then you have like China that has a bunch of nukes, and Russia. Like if we at this point, if we slow our budget down, we no longer are like no one's really gonna fear us anymore, and not in a, like I'm scared that you're gonna kill. Like I'm a fear into trying to not do anything stupid to get their country all to afford. So just basic stuff like that.
But how are we affording this? Because he cut taxes and then up spending, and we're going into even more debt than we started with. And yeah,
We should
so do you guys
cut other things. The cutting taxes actually can increase revenue, and Nick Videos was talking about this actually on TikTok. It's called the Laffer curve. He didn't explain it great in my opinion, but you can the strategy is, number one, that if you lower the rate, there will be more compliance and people will be more willing to pay a lower rate and not hide their money overseas or in other ways. But the other way is that the less taxes there are, in theory, the more investment there is, and the more investment there is, the more taxable income there is. You grow the tax base by growing the economy. You grow the economy by freeing up capital for investment and for consumption. So in theory, it is possible to grow the economy with lower taxes. Obviously, we're spending too much money on mandatory spending, which is entitlements like Medicare, Social Security, Medicaid, and we're also spending too much on everything else. So what has to be reformed is entitlements. Then that's the problem. Is a lot of people say, well, the debt is a problem. What's driving the debt is the entitlements. Discretionary spending is up to us. And moreover, there are ways that you can cut waste and you can kind of mess with that. But entitlements, that obligation is going to keep growing every year. We're going to be paying for more beneficiaries for, Medicare and Social Security in particular every year, and people are living longer. So unless and until we raise retirement age or reduce benefits, or we find another source of tax income, it's just not going to work. And that's a problem, is the fiscal and the monetary situation is just completely unsustainable and unworkable. So, but when people try to say, oh, well, if we cut military spending, the deficits are more than we're increasing military spending by. We would have to have our military budget to even make a dent in the deficits. So I agree with you. The spending is out of control, and that's a big problem. The debt is a big problem, but we have to do top to bottom fiscal reform and start with entitlements before we're serious about that.
Okay, thank you. That was great. I never thought about that.
For sure.
Yeah, man. Good question. Jesus.
I think our whole economic system as a whole we just need to kind of sort out what we're trying to do and what we can deem unnecessary and stop spending and move towards that.
Yeah. We got a lot to do with money, and at this point, the only thing, in my opinion, we back up our talking money with is gold. Even though the people say the gold standard, we say we have gold, and then obviously we, if you don't accept our currency, we'll roll 300 M1 Abrams through your face. So anyway, Jake the Snake, yes, you have your hand raised to heaven. What's up, my guy?
Shoot.
Oh, please don't tell me you forgot your question, dog.
I honestly did forget. I am sorry.
Base Zoomer?
Gen Alpha, I think.
No. Alpha is after 2010, right?
Do you have any idea?
Yeah, Gen Alpha, right?
Do you have any idea what it was about at all? Was it directed at somebody? Was it a policy question?
Well, I think he kind of solved it during the military spending thing when you said that's why no one messes with us, because we spend so much. I think I was going to try and butt in with that, but now it's kind of a little late, so.
Oh, that's good. No, yeah. No, I obviously agree with you. So there's one quote unquote, I guess you could say, influencer, even though your boy is not an influencer whatsoever. But yeah, thank you for being here. And yeah.
All right.
Good to start him out young, man.
So true.
Conservatism for the win. All right. Let's see. Morgan, what's going on?
Yeah, I have two questions. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
All right. First of all, what's a barb?
That Nicki Minaj stan. So
You ever
someone-
gone on TikTok and you see these people calling like these folks incels and then putting like these 300, like they'll put all these lyrics of a Nicki Minaj song with 500 different emojis on them?
No, I haven't seen that. I'm new
Oh,
to
or
TikTok and I'm newer to the political side of TikTok.
No, it's not even a political side. I mean, they've done it. They've gone into everything. Like I go down in the comic sections to look comic sections, Jesus Christ, comment sections, and then look for like jokes or something. And then all I see is like these little like emojis and all these lyrics, and I'm like, dude, my day has been ruined. But yeah, a barb is someone who, like, I guess you could say stands Nicki Minaj, but at the same time has a political agenda for Bernie, which that boy got out the race. But yeah.
All right, thank you. And to anybody who can't answer this question, how do I find ways to do real research on like the conspiracy theories, like the adrenochrome conspiracy theory or the QAnon conspiracy theory? Because if you like Google this stuff, it just comes up with how it's all false and just a conspiracy theory. But I'd like to know their side of the research and what
That
evidence they might have.
happens when you research a conspiracy theory, which is I'm not a big conspiracy guy. So
Yeah, I don't.
Right.
I mean, I don't really know anything about conspiracy theories at all.
Just read the Daily Groiper.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
You got to scour the internet, man. It's tough. But, or you just talk to trusted people. Like the way that I found out about conspiracy theories is people tell me it's sort of like an oral tradition. It's kind of like the Talmud. It's a lot like the Talmud, which is to say you should Google that and read what's in it. But yeah, like people tell me like adrenochrome, people in Michigan told me that one. Have you ever heard the one about the wells? Do you ever heard the expression poison the well?
I mean, I've heard the expression. I don't know that
Do you know where it comes
particular
from?
conspiracy theory. No.
So this is another one that was relayed to me
Nick,
orally.
remember what fangirl's about to enter the chat? Just a warning.
Who fangirls?
I'll answer this question and I'll see what I can do. See what happens.
All right. So the phrase "poison the well" comes from during the Black Plague in medieval times. What would happen is that the plague would be spread through the water supply. There was suspicion that people were getting sick in the towns and the villages because the water supply was poisoned. And who they blamed, and there is evidence for this, who they blamed at the time was Jewish people, because they found that the Jewish people in the town were not getting sick and the white people were. And in many cases, they caught rabbis and other Jewish people poisoning the wells with plague. And there's a lot more to it, but like these are the kinds of theories which you probably can't find them anywhere on the internet, although there are books about them and I've read books about them, and like there's a lot of evidence for the one I just described. But you just have to hear them from people. You have to join like communities and talk to people, because otherwise, like adrenochrome, how else would you hear about adrenochrome other than Alex Jones or like someone else telling it to you?
I don't even know what that is.
Adrenochrome is this it's like this psychological what is it? It's this hallucinogenic drug.
Do I want to know what it is?
Yeah.
It's derived from people's blood when they experience like an adrenaline rush, and like what it does is it's 16 times more powerful than DMT. Do you know what DMT is?
Yeah, I know what that is.
It's 16 times more powerful. And DMT, do you know about DMT that when people trip on DMT, if they trip together, that they remember the same hallucinations? They have a shared hallucination.
Yeah, I watched Joe Rogan. So.
But what that means is that they're not,
It's
it's not like a normal hallucinogen. It means they're going to another plane. And so if adrenochrome is 16 times more powerful, then what we can say is that they are basically communing with other entities on a spiritual level. And the way that they extract adrenochrome is by torturing people, because that's how you extract it, is from when people experience trauma, when people experience panic, the fight or flight response. So the theory is that our elites are doing human trafficking so they can harvest adrenochrome, and they're basically addicted to getting high on it and communing with evil spirits. But that's just a theory. That's just a theory.
Is it more potent in young children? Just a question.
Yes.
It's supposed to be.
That's all I ever want to hear about that again. I'm never gonna look it up. That
okay.
To Morgan, I if you want some more like memetic stuff, funny stuff, Panther Den has some fun stuff you could watch where it has interesting symbols that make you think. When it comes to stuff like the Finders Keepers cult and stuff like that, Mr. Mediker is a good resource. He has a lot of like 3-hour videos where he looks at FBI documents and all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
Also, Sharia LaBeouf is pretty good with some Saturn stuff. It's a good introduction to learn more about Saturn and demons and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah,
right,
you're going to have a much harder time than you used to finding stuff like that on the internet, because it used to be you could just, I mean, it was just everything was out there. You'd go on YouTube. When I was like 11 years old, I was like clicking through like YouTube like recommended videos, and I was like 11 years old, and I watched one of Alex Jones's old movies, and that was like the first way that I like started getting into that stuff. So it's a lot easier back then. Nowadays, like Nick said, it's pretty much scrubbed from the internet. You're not really going to find it anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of just have to like follow certain people and like talk to people and stuff, and then, you know, target your searches based on that.
It's basically been replaced by like a Shane Dawson type of video where it's like this surface level conspiracy theory. He talked about the Illuminati for the longest time, but no one wants to go into like who's behind the Illuminati or what it really stands for. It's just like this surface level, basically white girl conspiracy theory.
Holy cow, Alice in Wonderland, we have gone down the rabbit hole full-fledged.
Based.
Why is everything based, dog? Like I can't do
that guy went off on it's so true though. They always do that.
Come home, fatty.
Come home. Your blood remembers, fatty.
Yeah. And then like
come home, much. Southern man.
Like
I see like these people. There's like this one guy whose picture says, "Love you, Nick. Take the mask off, my fascist brother."
Whoa, no.
bruh.
That's what it says, dog.
Cringe.
Well, whoever's saying that should be banned. So where are my mods? I see you all in here, but nobody.
Jaden, I'm here. I can't be modding.
Let's see. Let's move. Thank you, Morgan, for the question. I like your hair.
Thank you.
Yep.
I just got a DM on Instagram from KP the Patriot.
Yeah.
She said, I don't know if this is you or who is on the Zoom or not, but I was wondering if there was any way I could be unmuted for the remainder of the Zoom. I have a lot I would like to contribute to some of the discussions. If not, it's totally okay.
Let me vibe checker.
Yeah.
Are you from the South?
Wignats. Kill or get rid of all the Wignats, please.
I'm originally from the South. I'm
In the
from Winnie, Texas, but I had to move to California because my dad went into the military. So.
Okay, well that's a pass. Do you hunt?
Yes.
What do you hunt?
Deer, and I'm getting my turkey tag soon. So I have my deer picture right there if you can't see it. But
yeah, I can see the deer. What do you hunt with the deer with?
260. It's a Tika T3 260 Remington.
Okay, barely. All right, barely.
One time I went hunting with my dad, and I think that's what sprouted all my mental health issues.
What?
Sounds about right.
I'm not gonna unpack that one. That was really okay. We're gonna keep that box. We're gonna keep that box all nice and taped up right here. All right. Hobo. Sure. I'm not gonna try and pronounce that first name if it unmutes him.
Yo, Fatty, can you hear me right now?
Yeah, I can.
My Hyperborean brother, how are you, my man?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Well, unfortunately Bopti, my Indo-European brother, left, but I guess I wanted to bring up some stuff, the whole socialism shit.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, these conservative ink types will use the word socialism to fearmonger for more, libertarian economic stuff.
Right.
Now, I'll get into the immigration part of it later really quickly. I'm not going to, think about it, but essentially, the whole welfare state thing, which people consider socialist, isn't really socialist, social democrat. And the reason why I think that's poignant is because the actual socialist aspect of it, the communists, right? Like if you go on lefty poll, they hate these soc dems, the social democrats, because by offering up a welfare state, you actually take people away from these fringe ideologies like communism. That's what Otto von Bismarck did, sort of in a proto fashion, where he had he provided state services and stuff for the workers so that they can move away from the socialist parties and move more towards German nationalism, unification, and stuff like that. But anyway, to get to the less nerdy stuff, the immigration argument about my GDP going up because of immigration, that's actually false. There was a Harvard study about it by a guy named Borjas, who was from Cuba, found that of the, I think, $1.7 trillion that GDP increases, so it's a lot due to immigration. But here's the thing, 1.6 trillion, 97.8% of it goes back to the immigrants, right? So like pretty much all of it just goes back to them in the form of wages or, profits from their little shops they've got. And the rest 2.2% goes back to the, business owners that are making money from hiring them. Now, the actual costs of immigration, such as again more competition for jobs, is pretty. It's not a good trade. You have, as it's pretty common sense, you have more demand for a job. It's going to be easier to suppress wages for it. And what my man Bopti was saying about, actually jobs open up because of it. I hate to attack him while he's gone, but I wanted to bring up a salient point. That's, again, not true. Proportionally speaking, American workers do move more towards managerial roles during waves of immigration because that's where they tend to cluster, right? Like you're going to hire an American to be an overseer for a bunch of farm workers because he's the only one who can speak English, right? Let's be honest. And again, they're also been proven to be more efficient workers. So yes, you have a proportional shift towards the managerial roles, but we're still losing the jobs at the end of the day. It's not like there's new jobs coming in. No, we're just moving into different jobs. We're losing the old jobs, and the wages for those are being suppressed. And about the whole civilizational argument about sub-Saharan Africa, Bopti also did bring up about how there was great trade with India and China. That's the problem. The East African coast is pretty much colonized by either the Abyssinian peoples, which aren't really sub-Saharan African at all, or Arabs. For example, the country of Zanzibar, it comes from the word Zanj Bazaar, which means shop of the blacks. That's where you sold slaves. And the reason you had all that trade was because you had Moguls and Chinese and others, and Portuguese too, trading on those eastern ports. So that's where you get all those sort of civilizational achievements from. The actual, heart of Africa, the jungle dense part where all the weird shit's happening right now. Not exactly, tip top civilizationally speaking. I guess, there's an excuse for that is because of the isolation they faced. I'm willing to give that some credence, I guess, mostly because I don't know the entire part of it. But like West Africa, which had plenty of contact with the outside world, I mean, you don't see West Africa writing the Vedas and the Upanishads or like the Odyssey, do you? Right? Even though there's people talk about Mansa Musa, how he destroyed the economy of Egypt and Italy due to how rich he was. Yeah, you're rich, sure. I mean, the Aztecs were literally swimming in gold and shit. But the fact of the matter is, being rich doesn't necessarily show civilizational prowess. I mean, they had complex societies, but it's not really exactly, Agartha tier society or anything like that. Right. But outside of that, yeah, I mean, I just request you to not mute me because I think I have some salient points, but I'll mostly keep quiet outside of that.
Okay.
Is that a question?
I'm really confused what you're trying
I'm
to
not
get.
unmuting. I'm not gonna let me put it this way. I'm not gonna unmute anymore, but dog, holy cow. I just started college, my guy. Whoa.
Yeah, I'm actually a freshman in college too. I just graduated senior year.
Wow, you're a genius. Thank you.
Thank you
I would
for
like to
making
add
everybody in here feel not as smart as they probably thought they were.
The Borjas number is $2.1 trillion increase in GDP.
My bad.
Not 2.1, and of that, 2.05 goes to immigrants.
Thank you for making everyone feel less smarter, except for
I feel super dumb right now.
I do too. I just started college and I feel like I should know at least that much.
We'll all bow down to Esoteric Hobo,
No,
our
I don't.
thought leader.
No, I don't bow. Fatty bows to no man except for God. So
Based?
Based. Come home, Fatty. Come home.
So was there no question in there, or?
I think you was
No, I just wanted to I wanted to debate Bopti and stuff, but unfortunately he left.
Dude, that
Oh,
would
yeah,
have been
he went to
interesting.
sleep.
'Cause both y'all know a lot of big words, and I don't know any big words except for supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, which isn't
But
even.
yeah, no, Fatty, that's about it. You should come home, man. You know, read Evelyn shit. You'd love that guy.
No, Evela's cringe, bro.
Nah, that's Cope. That's Cope.
I'm sitting at home, dog, right now. I am home. I don't know what you mean.
No, come home, bro. Come over to the Groypers and shit.
My God. You're not making a good case for me, my guy. I'm sorry.
Damn, all right.
You're good, bro. I like you.
Yeah.
Chill. Do you smoke? I'm asking.
No, I don't. I just have I've been diagnosed with autism though, so.
Yeah. Sick.
I could have made that diagnosis.
Wow.
Just kidding. That's a joke. I'm just playing with
It's
you.
good. It's good, man. It's good. It's good.
All right. Let's move on, I guess. Using my perception of reality now. Okay. Panfusa, what's up? Please use little words.
Oh, he was on my Zoom the other day. I remember you.
Oh wait, you have a Zoom? Oh wait, do you have a following?
Somewhat. I have 14K on TikTok.
All right, thanks for flexing on me. All right.
I wish I was allowed on that app. That'd be pretty epic.
Panfusa. Going once, twice, 2 3/4. I don't know what comes after 2. All right, good talk, my guy. You probably fell asleep. All right. Mick, what do you want?
I was just gonna ask a question. You can unmute me. You can mute me again if you want it.
Okay. All right. What's your question?
I was gonna ask to Nick and Jaden. We've seen with the Groyper Wars like coming in and showing face in the neoconservative areas. How do you think we can do that and have political influence in like actual party politics when the main conservative parties are run by neocons?
Wartime cats in my zone, so keep it brief.
It's that is a difficult question because it's going to take a long time. I mean, you've seen people try to go in overtly and directly, like James Alsop, and he just got like torched. So what I've advised my viewers to do is to basically just infiltrate the party, just lie and play your cards close to your chest, keep your cards close to your chest, don't reveal your power level, and infiltrate. Because right now, what we're seeing is that a fine distinction is being made between establishment and non-establishment. That was kind of like what Groyper Wars was about forcing the issue. And people had to explicitly take an anti-America first position to be in the establishment and vice versa. All the Groyper sympathizers got fired from Turning Point. So what's happened now is that if you set off any alarm bells or red flags that you're not on board with the system, they will make everyone aware of that. They will exile you. They will blacklist you. I've seen it happen to a lot of my friends, actually, Scott Greer being one. Other people work at Daily Caller. People work in Congress. I've known a lot of people like this. So at least for now, in the short term, to get in politics, you literally just have to infiltrate. And maybe in 10 years, when the landscape changes and we have a ton of people in there, then we can reveal the power levels and we could change our strategy. But for now, you're right. The parties are controlled by neocons. So any kind of bottom-up reform, they're going to see coming a mile away if we do it overtly. So that's why I just tell people, sneak in there, slip in there. And that's how to do it.
Power levels? Are we in Yu-Gi-Oh? I'm so confused.
Power level is like...
I'm seeing optical. I'm seeing power levels. Someone wants me to speak in pack. I don't know what my life is anymore.
Those are compliments.
Come
Yeah.
on, you'll learn, man.
Optical,
Fine.
dude. Like,
When you
what?
come home, you'll learn.
You'll learn. You'll learn.
You'll
My
learn.
God, dude.
Maddie, did you listen to me when I told you the other day to watch America First? Did you do it?
I missed the show, I think. I don't know. I
Oh,
looked it
bummer.
up. But, bro,
That'd
you know,
be like based on what?
like, bro, look, I got a life, dog. Like, you know, I got homework, tobacco to chew, you know, like, come on, man. No. This
It's
stuff.
okay. You'll get there in time. We'll support
You'll
you.
become addicted. I had 2 finals today. I still watch the show.
Based? Loyal viewer.
Loyal.
In the
Nick,
UK,
do you
we have to
recognize who
stay
I
up till
am?
I know you are. I know you are.
Saying.
Yeah, all right. He's
Loyalty,
waving wooden
yes.
guns around. I'm about to pull a real
Got
gun.
It's a
fatty
toy.
immense videos.
Moving on. Okay. Tori, what's up?
God, you are such a fucking king. I've been sitting here for. Oh, sorry. Can I not cuss on this?
No, it's cool. Wait, what did you say? I'm such a what?
A king for unmuting me. I've been like
Oh,
sitting
sorry.
here.
Dude, there's so many. There's such a big
Talk to
list.
my man Nick's. I just want to talk to Nick.
Oh.
Oh,
I have
hi.
a couple questions for you, buddy.
Okay.
Buddy.
Oh, that was rude. I don't mean to be rude. We're total friends. Don't worry. Yeah.
We're from the South. We are hospitable here.
What did you say?
I said we're from the South. We are all hospitable here.
Oh, I didn't know you fucking free. I can't cuss. Okay.
I don't care.
I don't know. What if there's like people?
Get it out.
Sorry. Hey.
Checked.
Question for you, Nick. Do you think that there's racial do you think that there is a racial profiling in the criminal justice system?
Yeah.
To what extent?
What does that mean? You want like a percentage or?
No, I want to hear what you think. Why?
Well,
economic status or just oppression of their race over the years?
Yeah. See, to me, I think that police and law enforcement go where the crime is. And we know where the crime is. We know what neighborhoods. And I don't think that's strictly a socioeconomic thing. I think it is predominantly a racial thing. So I would say that, because people like to bring up racial profiling as an example of why law enforcement is unjust. I think that it's just an example of law enforcement being efficient because, it's sort of like with terrorism. Of course, we should racial profile terrorists because, who are going to be the terrorists? It's generally going to be Islamic terrorism, and it's going to be, not like there's no white Muslims, but generally they're going to be Arab, right, or West Asian or South Asian, something like that. So I think that racial profiling is basically backed up by statistics, and it's really more about economy of information. You can't arrest everybody and find all crime everywhere, but you can go to where most of the crime is, and you can find most of the crime based on statistics.
All right, Tori, your face obviously said that you probably didn't agree with a lot of things that were said.
Oh, no. Okay. I agree with you need to go. Law enforcement needs to go where there's crime, and in poor areas, there's going to be higher crime. And it's normally
not just poor.
Here we go.
And black generally.
Okay,
Chicago.
yeah.
Take
Minority,
Chicago, for
yes.
example. Where's the crime in Chicago?
South side?
The South Side. Inglewood, McKinley Park, Garfield Park. These are, I drove through Garfield Park. The shooting rate is 450 per 100,000. And it is mostly black.
Wait, can I jump back on your terrorist thing? Do you think terrorists are only the Islamic terrorist groups? There's other
I didn't say
Oh,
they
you
were
said you would
only
be quiet, hobo. I
Islamic.
didn't expect for you to belch in the mic.
My bad.
The top 4 terrorist groups by body count are Muslim. And the
No,
fifth
no,
is
no,
the
no, for
Lord's
sure. I
Resistance
didn't know
Army.
if you actually thought that there was no more. I was just
Does that take into
No.
account is that just nationally or is that internationally?
International. It's
Yeah,
Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Al-Shabaab, and Boko Haram. And then the 5th is the Lord's Resistance Army.
And then, so most of those things believe, and that's not saying all Muslims are terrorists, but most of those all have another pillar of faith called, what is it? Jihad, right? Something like that, yeah. Where they believe but they've added a different part.
Yeah, for sure.
There's 5 pillars of faith. They add a 6th, jihad. Basically, if you're deemed an infidel, me, anyone else that doesn't believe in their faith, if you're not willing to convert, then you're not worth being here. So
Yeah.
by any means necessary. If not, there's also just some really evil people. For instance, Boko Haram is really evil. Everybody, the Muslims in that aren't or for Boko Haram in those areas will literally call them devils. So it's not saying like, dude, all Middle Eastern people are terrorists. No, but the people that believe in jihad are more likely to do it.
Okay, back to my buddy Nick. I can't call you buddy because I feel like I'm being rude. I'm not trying to be rude. I just can't
Okay.
address people that are older than me, like in a normal way.
Okay, that got creepy real fast. All right.
What? I'm like literally, I don't know. What am I supposed to call you, Mr. Fuentes, dog? Like, I don't know. I'm calling you buddy. So, what do you think that we could do to try to stop like this crime in this black area that's happening so much? Like, what things should be put in place?
We should basically just have like a police state. Like, I really liked when Donald Trump said that he was going to send the military to occupy Chicago, because that is just frankly what is called for. I think that, I mean, in every neighborhood where this is the case, Baltimore, LA, Chicago, New York, New Orleans, certain neighborhoods and people have just proven that they are not governable under the existing regime, under the existing laws. And so we just have to transition to a system that is more workable. I mean, you see some of these Chicago public schools, and I see a lot of these videos on like World Star Hip Hop, where you'll see like a petite little white girl teacher, and she's in a class in Chicago, or in some city, and you've got students that are punching each other and flipping stuff over. And this is like essentially, I mean, that is a microcosm and representative of what is happening on a broader level, which is to say that, I mean, they are allowed all these liberties, and what do they do with them? So I think that for the benefit of the people there and for everybody else, there just needs to be an occupation, and there just needs to be like draconian laws, and we need to take the people that are committing the crimes and put them in jail. And a lot of people see that as a problem that needs to be remedied. They say the problem is not the crimes that are being committed, it's the people being locked up for the crimes. They call it mass incarceration, but it's mass incarceration because it's mass crime. And I would rather the people committing the crimes be in jail than on the street. I'd rather, have them over there behind walls than see them when I get out on an exit on Sacramento Avenue, in Chicago. So that's what I feel about it, is there just needs to be commensurate government to the level of instability.
Okay, so you don't believe in you believe in mass I don't know. I'm not going to say what you believe in mass incarceration. I'm just like thinking about what you said. But you're saying that there's all these fights and all this stuff. How would a military going in? Now, don't get me wrong. I think extra police enforcement, extra protection in Chicago would be extremely helpful, because there is a lot of crime, and that's a huge problem in America right now. And I don't get how the military would at all inform or educate the kids what not to do after seeing generations of, I do this, this, and this. I'm going to be like everybody else in the neighborhood, and I'm going to be like, I feel like there's no educational value in sending military there instead of trying to rehabilitation of stuff like that.
I just don't really believe in education as a solution. I mean, maybe in the long-term solution for that instability is to build up, good habits and good traditions, and rebuild the family, and restore religiosity. Those are the real antidotes to crime, is strong families with a mother and a father married. That's the other problem with blacks, is their out of wedlock birth rate is 70%. So, I mean, people don't really think about what that means. It means that only 30%, if you meet a black person, 3 out of 10 of them will have their parents married when they were born. And that means everybody else, that means they don't have a father in the home, or the parents are separated, right? And if you are not being raised by a father and a mother, particularly if you don't have a father, the rate at which you're going to commit crime is worse. Blacks are already predisposed, I believe, to commit more crime, and we went over this last week. But then you add to that these cultural factors and these other factors, and it exacerbates the problem. But what's happening right now is that it's just anarchy. It's lawlessness. And this is only compounded by the fact that you've got political correctness now. And by the way, I live in the suburbs. My parents are born and raised in the city, so they know Chicago cops, and they'll tell you that cops don't even want to police these areas anymore because they know that if they shoot the wrong kid, then they're going to end up on the news and the city's going to get burnt down and everything. They're going to be like Darren Wilson or George Zimmerman. So they don't even bother anymore. But I mean, who loses out in the end? It's blacks, because they're not going to go in and enforce laws because they know that if they cross the line, and this tends to happen in any war zone or any, crime situation, that they can end up on the news and they can end up with their house surrounded or whatever. Michael Brown tried to steal a cop's gun. Cop kills him. Now this cop is infamous, right? In the city, he has to flee the town, and he's on trial. So they say, you know what, to hell with them. So what we need, at least for the moment, is to restore order. Before we can talk about education and all that, we have to restore order. And order is restored by force. These are gangs. These are violent people. And the only way to match them is with force and make them afraid. And making them afraid means you can't be politically correct. It means you can't be afraid of Black Lives Matter, saying, oh, you shot somebody. Here's the thing. You got criminals everywhere. You've got gang members everywhere. And everybody that ends up dead is somebody that was trying to get their life back on track. They were a good kid. They had straight A's in school and blah, blah, blah. And, down to a man, they're all in gangs. They're either people that got killed as a bystander or they were in gangs. And so, you almost miss the distinction. So at a certain point, it just has to be curfews and military on the streets and soldiers on every corner. And if you have a gun, we're going to frisk you, we're going to stop you, we're going to frisk you, we're going to throw you in jail. And if you shoot somebody, we're going to shoot back. And that's the way you restore order. And then you can worry about rehabilitating the long
But
term.
isn't that education? I don't get, wouldn't you want to promote education? The whole, we're going to stop all this gang violence. We're going to stop all this mass, criminal activity happening in the Chicago area, especially in juveniles. Wouldn't you want to give them a home? And you were saying about the whole family situation, the parents being in a home is a major problem, but doesn't that also have to do with how it's been for so many years in those areas? So wouldn't you want to educate and try to predispose people or undispose of the predisposal of that, saying that you can get out of here, you can do better? Wouldn't you want to educate them instead of playing soldiers on every single corner of the street, acting like they're criminals in their own country and they can't be free like anyone else because their socioeconomical keeps them there, even though they did nothing?
It's not their socioeconomics. Why do you think those neighborhoods are bad? It's because the people in them are bad. It's because, and not like they're necessarily bad, but they have they have accepted a standard of living. I mean, and all these people know, and this is just irresponsibility on the part of the parents, and it is a failure for the generations to rise above. They have proven that they're ungovernable, and it's like this in every city, and it's been like this for decades. And the public schools suck as it is. I mean, they can't educate people that are ready to learn and have good parents and are involved in the community and everything, let alone people that are actively resisting it and violent and so on. And the public schools only do so much. You go to school and then you go home, and you go home and you go in on the block. You go on the block with all the people on the block, and you hang around all the others. And it has created this vicious cycle that must first be broken by restoring order so that kids can go to school safely. And first we establish safety, we establish law and order. And then once that happens, we can proceed from there. And we could talk about investment in charter schools and, opportunities with that. But the problem now is, kids are trying to get to school and they get shot. And kids are coming home from school and they're being brought up in gangs, and they're being brought up in gangs on the alleys. And so, this idea that we can only do these very liberal, smart solutions, it just hasn't worked. And these people are people that, try going to the South Side and you see them hanging out at the gas station, you see them loitering by the liquor store, whatever. Try going up to these people with a textbook and saying, don't you know that you could get a scholarship and work in an office? I mean, the only paths out that they see are basketball and rap.
Teach them.
And everybody knows that.
Give them someone to look up to.
There needs to be role models. Obviously,
Michael Jordan.
You literally just proved yourself. You just proved it that they have no one to look up to. Their parents are crappy. Their schools are crappy. They have no one to show. No one's showing them a good way to live their life. So they're being brought up and they're just assuming my only way, I have to protect myself. I can't rely on the system. I can't rely on the police because I'm being told that a cab, that kind of stuff. So I need to defend myself. I need to join a gang. And I need to have kids left and right and then just leave them. See,
Lucas, sorry, go on. I wanted to
Let me pause real quick and just bring up the point that this man is gone It's like the
Also,
fifth time he's done that. All right, moving on. Sorry.
I just don't understand. You're saying the best way to handle this is a police state, but that would just
wouldn't
instill
that create
fear.
more of a barrier?
That would create more of a
Oh,
barrier against
please.
the people.
Well, Lucas, they tend to have lots of wedlock in marriages, even in Africa, even in these traditional societies. I guess traditional.
You believe it's genetic.
Well, I mean, it's not real. It could be what's that word?
But a majority of Africa is in extreme poverty.
Well, I mean, poverty doesn't necessarily mean you break apart your. In fact, poverty usually means you're backward socially, at least according to Westerners, and you'd rather be in those supposedly backwards gender relationships. You know, where you have the extended family or the nuclear family.
Here's the bottom line: the innocent person and the society as a whole should not be a victim just because there are certain people that we could spend a lot of time and energy and fail at taking them by the hand and teaching them this is how you act in a civilized society. It's not.
And don't complain
the
about
hundreds of millions of
Not
people in
complain about
America who have
it.
done nothing wrong should not be the victim just
literally
because we
said.
think we should be nice to these people who commit crimes.
But we're talking about the well-being of the kids being brought up into these communities of people that are committing crimes. So if you can complain all about, oh my gosh, what are we gonna, these people, we should just leave them and let them fend for themselves. Obviously you don't care about the well-being of the children.
I care. No, hold on. I care about the well-being of children, but let me propose you this, Lucas. All right. I would like you to go down to a place where I live for a little bit called Orange Mound. It is in Memphis. I would like you to go down to the block and try any corner store or whatever. I'd like you to go down there and talk to one of them and say, look, I want to help your kids out. First of all, I'd like to see you walk.
They would
2
mug
blocks.
you.
Do you see how like
You'd come to them and be like,
disgusting
"We
that
want to
people
break
in
down barriers."
America
They would
are
mug
so
you.
scared
They'd
to
take your
cut their
phone.
I'm not saying
saying that Lucas could not go down to this place in Memphis, Tennessee, and ask to help them. Like that's a barrier that's so scary in America right now that we have that. So why aren't we trying to fix that instead of putting a soldier
Because
on
they'll shoot you. They'll shoot you on the corner.
It's been tried. Go try it. You go help them. I don't
I
want to
can
get
tell you
shot.
personally.
Look,
they would
do you think it took a teenager in 2020 to realize this? People have tried and it hasn't worked. All right, that's why we're here.
Hold on, no. Look, let me explain this. And this isn't saying we're gonna criminalize. Like, I don't know what they're trying to say. I'm not saying all blacks are criminals. Is the percentage of which they commit crimes higher than most other races? Yes. Now, I've grown up.
What are you talking about? Which type? Talking drugs? Talking
violent?
Everything.
Because I can go on those with you.
Can you?
You want to bring up some FBI crime statistics?
Let me say this. Oh, you're right. No, you're right. Okay. So if you're in a majority white community, what do you think the majority of the crime by race is going to be? White. If you're going to be in a majority Hispanic community, what do you think the most crime rate is going to be on average going to be there? Hispanic. But when
Blacks
you have a percent of the population, we have a percent of a population that commits more crimes on average than anyone else. And I'm not saying they're all bad. Like my third, like a kid I literally grew up from a dirt floor to a house now, right? He's black. So I'm definitely not saying, and that's not like I have a black friend token. Like, I'm not saying they're all bad, but the rate is higher. And I think I have literally held my friends in my arms while I watched the life leave his eyes because the dude, we got caught in a drive-by. Now, let me explain something to you. He wasn't even the target. It was the house right next door. You know what the guy said? Because we knew it was an inter-gang thing. You know what the guy said? Well, he got past his initiation anyway. The care for human life is not there.
Exactly. That's what we need to stop.
Okay, so you think they're going to care about you going down there and help them? No, because I'm called a lick. They're going to hit a lick and they're going to run your pockets for everything they got. And that's not just on black communities.
But I'm a teenage unarmed white boy. We need to figure. The problem is, I'm not saying.
But you're even more likely to get blasted.
But I'm arguing that what we need to be focused on is raising the youth in these communities and showing them that there's a way to live a better, more substantial, more enjoyable life. Because if you're just going to complain about the crime they commit and then do nothing for the kids that are just going to be brought up and
We're
told
gonna do something for them.
Can I add something?
Solve anything.
Yeah. Patriot, you've been wanting to raise your hand. Sorry.
We're gonna put tanks on the streets.
All right. So I mean, Tori brought up education, which I mean that could succeed, that could fail. Like an example is like schools with sex education, which some people argue is the sex education is not very good. But schools teach that if you have unprotected sex, you can get pregnant. But if you have protected sex, it lessens the odds of you getting pregnant.
No, they teach abstinence.
They teach abstinence.
I wish they would.
I understand that, but they still teach using protection as well. But anyways, my point being that you can educate and you can teach kids all of these things, but at the end of the day, it is their choice. They're either going to choose to do the right thing or they're going to choose to do the bad thing. So whether or not you educate someone or not, it's not. They're going to choose what they want to do.
But
and most people that are in gangs, they don't choose to be in, or they aren't forced to be in gangs. They choose.
They
to
are. They literally are.
Let me talk, because they believe it's the only way of life to be able to make money, to be able to be supported by people. That's what they think. It is a choice. It is not.
If you don't think it's a choice, I would advise you to go watch. There's a YouTube channel called Jubilee.
It's not a choice.
Okay, I can agree with you.
Hold on, no, let me finish my point.
Go off.
Go on, y'all. I let y'all finish. Let me finish
Go
my
off,
point.
fatty.
I've
Lay it
lived
on.
this life. I might be this white country kid, but trust me, I know more about this than probably half of y'all ever will. I hope you don't ever know about it. All right, but look, I will implore you to go and watch a video by a YouTube channel called Jubilee. They make something called Middle Ground. And they literally, let's look up Jubilee Middle Ground gang.
I watched that, yes.
Bloods and Crips. Yeah. You know what they said back then? Yeah, it wasn't a choice. Now it is a choice. And it is a choice if you want to get affiliated or not. Trust me, I I have friends that are affiliated. I have friends that have chosen not to be affiliated. And they're not press ganged into it. Most of them feel an obligation when multiple of their family members or friends are there. They're like, I feel obligated to do that. That's not force. That's still a choice.
No, I'm not arguing that they're literally being forced into a game. I'm arguing that they're growing up in an environment where there's literally no other choice. They don't know of another choice. We need to educate them on the other choice.
So like
when you said like
we have dumped millions and millions of dollars into social programs, but they reject our help. In Milwaukee, Wisconsin, there are third and fourth graders who cannot read. In fourth grade, I was reading.
I can't even read all the way.
But they don't have any reading skills at all, and they don't even accept any help, even though they've been given millions of dollars many times.
Tori, if you're the MOH,
Would you feel good if you were in like a poorer community and this government, these programs showed up and they were just like, yeah, we're gonna teach you all this stuff? You're gonna immediately feel defensive because you feel less than, you feel.
What is your solution? What is your solution?
That's not necessarily true, because
I was trying to.
You can choose to be the victim or you can choose to be the victor. You can choose to rise above.
Yeah, just go to the Black Leadership Summit. That's what I would do.
Yeah, go to the class of black kids. You can be a victim or a victor. And they're going to say, I want to work hard every day and make minimum wage. I used to work at UPS and like and I'm just saying, I worked with a black supervisor. And I had a partner who was black. We would unload the trailers together, and both of them said they were involved in gang activity. Like on the training day, the one was like, "Hey, yo, like you gang bang?" And he was like, "Yeah, I gang bang." You can? They're like, "Yeah." Like, what are the odds? Two people working at UPS, and they're like, "Yeah." Like, we're both gang banging.
Lucas.
And the turnover rate there was so high. And it was because people come to this job and they say, "Oh yeah, fuck this. I'm going to get my bonus. I'm going to be a seasonal worker. I'll get my little money. And then I'm going to go back and do what's easy." And it's easy to pull a trigger, and it's easy to, sell drugs and choose that path. And I think that's why they choose it.
Lucas.
So we have to send the military on the streets to make sure that all that is shut down. Checkpoints, soldiers, and fuck all this understanding stuff. We need order above all else.
You obviously don't agree with the protests going on currently of quarantine, correct?
Let Fatty talk. Fatty has something to say. I'm sorry.
Tori's been trying to say something. Tori, what's up?
Thanks. Okay. So I totally agree that being in a gang is 100% your choice. It is. It's you physically saying, I'm going to affiliate with this gang. I'm going to physically do this. There's no way around that. 100%. But I feel like there's a lot of misrepresentation, like we said, with Nick, smiling
Yeah.
at me.
I
Okay,
can't react.
Huh?
I can't
This
physically
man,
No, it's
react.
okay. I don't know. I was just
I have to keep a
watching.
straight
he
face.
got in the Zoom the last week when I first met this man. Like, I still don't agree with everything he says, but like, this man literally will smile at you for no apparent reason. So.
It's okay. I make facial expressions too. I'm so mean. I feel like I'm being mean. Okay, anyways, back to what I was saying.
I'm the meanest person you'll ever meet. So go ahead.
But like, okay, I can agree with the order, I think, on some extent, with an add of education, but I don't feel like there needs to be a whole entire military presence, because I feel like it's almost like
Lucas, Tori, you both have a very noble thing in mind. There are these people in our country who didn't choose to be in a rough situation, and you think we should take care of them. And I think that's a good position to have in general. I think it shows high moral standing. But you've repeatedly said, Lucas, you said this specifically, that money is not the solution to all these problems. But then you turn and call us like authoritarians and theocrats when the only solution is to get people to go to church, to stay married, to raise their kids, and to work hard. And then when we suggest this as a solution, you call us theocrats or fascists or authoritarians. So you can pick your choice. You can keep throwing money, which you admit doesn't work, at communities that don't appreciate it, or we can give them the church, which is not only a physical helpful, but also leads to salvation.
I think I totally think about higher powers. I would not exactly go into church because there's so many realms, but I think of looking up to a higher power, whether that's Christianity, Judaism, Christianity for HW. He loves it, I think. Okay. But like, fuck it. If you want Lizzo to be your higher power and you think she's gonna help you, like
There's nothing in this world that can hold
Positive
up
role
high
model.
enough to be a higher power
I'm
without
genuinely.
breaking.
I just have a quick question.
Lizzo.
You just said that I have a high moral standpoint, correct?
I think that position is a good moral standpoint, right? You don't want to leave people behind.
So
just
I'm
given
not.
They didn't choose to
Christian.
do it.
I'm not Christian.
Sure.
So
I know.
how does that work at all?
Having one like position that's moral doesn't like automatically undo all the advantages of being Christian.
What if my other positions are immoral then?
I don't know. It seems like you want to sell out the country to anyone. You're like, anyone can be an American. All you have to do is come here, or your mother has to give birth here.
Did I say that at all? I said
you kind of did, yeah.
I said what it takes to be an American is to love the country.
No, I think I was saying that you should respect the
you said that
culture and the nation, and you were saying that like legally, if someone's an American, they're an
you said that
American.
they need to be Christian and straight and adapt to everything.
I didn't say straight, but I did say Christian.
And speak English and do all this stuff that.
Yes.
I think you have to be straight. America is not a gay nation. America is a heterosexual nation.
If you don't want gay sex in Botswana,
country,
you have to go
Israel.
to
Israel. If you want to be gay, go to Israel.
Stop flexing the Recon CS6. I swear to God, dude. If I see you point a wood gun or a Nerf gun one more time, dog, like, come on.
Wait,
like, I
Nick,
get you a real gun, but you're pointing a gun I can go to Dollar Tree and buy right now.
I want a Fed post.
Are you homophobic, Nick? Sorry, I was laughing at
Yeah.
Patty. That was so funny.
I'm not afraid of them. I just don't. Our
agree
country's not gay. Our country is proudly heterosexual.
Was that funny for you? Like, was that a?
No, I'm being completely serious.
I'm laughing at her face.
No, I'm just trying to make it. Also, this guy is being so mean to me. I think he's telling me to shut up, bitch, and I'm like, ah.
Who's telling you to shut up?
Jared Holt says, "Shut up." Bitch.
Jared Holt's a nasty guy.
You know what? I think I'm a pretty nice person, and I think I'm very open to learn about new things. Like, I even got to agree with a little bit of order with Nick. Like, be proud of me.
So, okay.
Order above all else.
In terms of, homosexuality, I wouldn't say I'm homophobic, because to have a phobia would to mean you're afraid of something. I fear God, bro. I don't fear nothing else.
Hell yeah.
Oh no, I'm kind of afraid of those age rates, bro. I don't want that shit.
Every moral fiber within me disagrees with any of that. But my faith also calls me to love and respect you.
Exactly.
And I share my faith with you. And I would hope to God that you would repent of sins. And if you're not willing to do that, like I said, I'm not going to keep, trying to force my morals on you. But at the end of the day, like I always say, every time I say this, we're going to stand in front of God. And one of us is going to the lake of eternal fire, and the other one is going to be able to walk between those pearly gates.
So are
I would
you
hope that you would be with me when I walk between those gates.
So I mean, that's not really the point. You're an example of a true Christian that chooses to love everyone and spread your morals. Him going that if you want to fix all of America's problems, you need to be Christian.
Yeah.
And
correct.
No,
why do you want to define? It's so funny. You're not a Christian, but you're going to say, well, he's the real Christian. He loves everyone.
I mean,
Of course you would say that. Of course you would want
Roman
tolerance.
Catholic.
I am intolerant of sin. We cannot tolerate bad things. I mean, what is the definition? What is the connotation of tolerance?
I'm pretty familiar with.
If I were to say I tolerate you, what would that mean? I tolerate you. If you were to hang out with me and I said, well, I tolerate you, I mean, it would mean
really
I don't really like you, but I'm sort of just like accepting it. And so it's implicit in that is like we know it's wrong or heterodox or whatever, meaning different or unconventional, but yet we like sort of reluctantly accept it. Now, why would we
That's all we want.
Things that are bad?
That's all we want. All we want.
I am opposed to tolerance. Tolerance is not a Christian virtue. And love in the Christian sense is very different from the kind of love that people talk about. So
what do you
I reject this.
We have multiple different versions of love. There's like agape. I don't have all these memorized. But loving doesn't mean always being tolerant of something, but it is.
No, obviously, you're not going to
tolerate. I recognize that we're all made in the image of Christ.
So Nick, do you believe that God loves all of his children, given like everybody in the world?
Yes.
So whenever, and this is a question, whenever like we're supposed to live a Christ-like life, doesn't that mean that we should love everybody like he does?
Yes, but the way that God loves is different than the way that we love.
Right. No, yeah, I get that. But I mean, I was just wondering what you thought of that.
Well, like in Jesus Christ, even if you read the gospel, it's so funny to me because when I read the gospel for the first time, I'll be honest, I grew up Catholic, but I was basically like a cultural Catholic, which means that, you know, my parents weren't religious really like at all. I mean, they forced us to go to church for a few years. But I really came back to religion when I was in college. I read the Bible for the first time. And I swear, when I was reading the gospel, I said, wait a second. This savior is very different from the one I was brought up to believe in, the sort of therapeutic Christianity that I was brought up to believe in, which is that, you know, Jesus Christ was this hippie that like just was kind of okay with everything and he fed the poor and he was just a nice guy. You know, I read a book about a guy that like hated sin, you know, where somebody comes up and says, my dad is dying. Should I take care of my dad? And he says, no. Let the dead lay with the dead. And he said, I didn't come to bring peace. I came to bring a sword. I came to divide. I came to divide households. And he said, if your right hand sins against you, cut it off, because you better to not have your hand and enter the kingdom of heaven, right? And the list goes on and on. People like to bring up this, well, he hung out with prostitutes. He hung out with people that were repentant, that left behind their ways and joined him. But when he saw things that he didn't like, he literally cracked the whip. He brought the whip out. You know, and that is what he wanted us to be, which is strong and assertive Christians and to hate evil and to love goodness. And, you know, this is not a country that does that. This is a country that is in love and infatuated with evil and hates, frankly, goodness. I mean, it's
have you ever heard of
ridiculed
Sodom
and
and Gomorrah? Have you ever heard of the city Sodom and Gomorrah at all? Do you know how every people say we get closer and closer? I don't know if you ever heard a Christian say this, but every day we get closer to what Sodom and Gomorrah was. You know what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah?
Mm-mm.
They got wiped off the face of the earth. You know why? We're so close to it, man. It's crazy. You read the Bible, you look at Revelations, you see how close we are to what people call the times. We are getting closer to it. And for people to say like, and I'm not saying you guys are denying Christianity. For people though that I find that say it's weird that, you know, it's like, oh, I can't see that happening. I'm like, dude, like you can read this text that has literally been like confirmed on multiple sources to be extremely old, literally almost like not word for word, but pointing to the things that will happen, how Christians are going to be like over the years. It's crazy to me that people don't say, well, crap, maybe they are right. They don't even give a second chance. They're not even like, well, maybe I will try and figure it out.
And this is fundamentally why we disagree with libertarians, because the libertarian is so self-obsessed with the individual, the one person. It leads them whether you want to take a very religious route like I will, or maybe something like Jordan Peterson would say, a secular way, it's better for society to people to live a very biblical life. And libertarianism is devout, or is void of these principles that you should act in a way that is beneficial, not in a way that is pleasurable. And Sodom and Gomorrah was essentially like people pleasuring themselves until like eternal damnation and destruction and fiery hell.
Going back to like what Fatty was saying, I 100% agree with that. Like people will look at a Bible verse that literally like is depicting exactly what was going on from like 3,000 years ago and just deny it. Like there's literally a verse in, I think it's 2 Corinthians, and it says that like God says that he'll shut up the rains, and that was like that you could look at that as like the Australia wildfires, and he's going to send locusts to devour the land, and that's happening in, I think it's in East Africa, but locusts are literally eating their crops and people are starving. And then he also said he was going to send disease, and that literally is like the COVID pandemic. There's things like that people just like choose to ignore that are describing literally events that are happening in our
I'm shocked the word of God is accurate. Wow.
Right.
But I don't understand what this has to do with
Sorry,
I think we
it
just
was
wanted
my
to-
fault because I went on a biblical rant.
Yeah,
Okay, I have another question for Fatty. Wait, what's your real? Can I call you? Like, do you like being called
Call me
that?
Fatty. Yeah, I named myself. The reason I named it
I
is
don't know. I don't
the
want to be
first thing
rude.
someone's gonna insult me with is you're fat. So I
No,
call
me
myself
too.
Fatty.
Me
Okay,
too.
go ahead.
You're an endomorph, based endomorph.
Okay, so my Nick and Fatty and I think HW and Patriot. Okay, since you guys were since you guys were mainly the ones that were talking on this, like by no means, like I'm personally Catholic, like I believe in God, but do you believe that there needs to be like separation of church and state? Like,
In the sense, I believe in the sense of when there's not separation of church and state, the church ends up getting corrupted, and then we get into some weird stuff. But I still think that we need to follow Christian morals, and that could be seen as, I guess you could say, my opinion, but it comes from my beliefs. We might not need I don't need my preacher maybe to tell me what I need to do lawfully, but I would hope whoever my senator or the president takes from the same morals that I take from.
that's just, I feel like I totally agree that like if it's your religion, you totally follow by your morals. But like our First Amendment does say freedom of religion. I just think it's hard to construct all those different religions that people go by. You know what I mean? And their morals, because I mean, in the Christianity spectrum, like Catholics' morals are completely different, or not completely different, I should not go there, are different than some Christians, because like there's more extremes on some sides and stuff like that. So how, like, I think that on a moral standard that people should follow what they believe, but I don't think that like you can honestly make it like a law because there's already a freedom created, and that's like contradicting the past and contradicting what this country was built on. So I feel like there has to be a separation.
I think Nick touched on this very well at some point in the past during this Zoom, that our idea of separation of church and state is not what was written in, it wasn't even written into the Constitution, but the whole idea of separation of church and state is that the head of the church is not the head of the government, right? There aren't shared positions between people in the church and people that have like legislative power or judicial power. That's not to say that the people who have legislative power or judicial power are faithful Christians who write moral laws and Christian laws and actually uphold the values of the nation.
But doesn't, like, for example, banning gay marriage go against free will?
No.
No.
If you look at the historic Christian position and the historic Christian understanding of what the government is for, like now we talk so much about like the government's purpose is to preserve individual sovereignty and personal liberty and all of these different things. The historic Christian understanding and belief about what the government's purpose was to promote good and to punish wickedness. To promote good and punish wickedness. So, I mean, that, I don't really have to explain that. I mean, encourage what's good and punish evil. Now, so obviously wickedness and evil, now in our relativistic, society, there's a different understanding. There's debates about what wickedness and evil is. Obviously, America is a Christian society historically. We're moving away from that now. So the Christian moral compass is The Christian moral compass is true. The Christian moral compass is what the country was founded upon. It's what the country has been operated on for the past,
Well, when the
200
country
some
started,
years.
slavery was also justified.
No,
So you
Yeah,
cannot,
Bible verses taken out of context.
no, I'm not talking about Bible. I'm talking about society. Society moves, and you cannot take what happened almost 300 years ago and compare it to what's happening today.
Oh, you can.
Well, but you can though, because human nature doesn't change. So I mean, that's not really a good argument. And also, just because certain people did certain things which we consider to be wrong. Now, I mean, you could use that in the reverse also. You could say, just because we disagree with slavery now doesn't mean we can compare it back then. So I mean, that goes both ways. And that doesn't negate, however, the fact that American, going all the way back through like Anglo-Western Roman jurisprudence and everything, it was founded upon Christian morality. So just because people did, justified slavery morally doesn't mean that the rest of it is invalidated.
Well, I mean, I think it's around 54 million people in America today are non-religious. So I feel like you can't justify, and there's millions of more people that aren't Christian. So you can't take the America today, because the America today is not the America that in 1777. America today is not a Christian society.
Right, and that should be rectified. Sorry, and then I'll step back because I've been talking, but that should be rectified. Truth doesn't care about what the majority says or what the majority votes for, and that's like the fundamental flaw with democracy and these other, you can even go so far as to say other representative governments. There's no truth in majority. There's no truth in consensus. The truth is a higher standard. So if something is true, if something is moral, if something is transcendent, then we should strive to implement it. We should strive to maintain it rather than
the American society has decided that gay marriage is moral today.
But they're wrong. They're wrong because God says that they're
authority.
That is not
they
the
don't exactly. They don't
opinion.
have the authority. They're not given the mantle of the
That's how
state.
America works.
And the Supreme Court decided that, not America.
Not the majority. I bet you. I would be shocked. I would be
Hollywood
shocked.
and the
California, you got
It's
shot
over
down
60% of Americans.
If you want to talk about how America's supposed to operate, judicial review is an abomination, and like in the mind of the founders. So if you want to talk about like the way that America should be, America was founded so that people could change it and say, well, no, it was complete. The power was completely usurped by the courts. They have zero right or authority to mandate that gay marriage should be legal. If you look at the voting, the public opinion, when the Supreme Court did that, the majority of Americans were still against gay marriage.
The majority of Americans today are for gay marriage.
But that shows, number one, not accurate, but that also shows that government is able to dictate the morality of its citizens. So there's no reason that the government shouldn't dictate the morality of its citizens back in the right direction.
Now, with that being
So how
said,
should you get
how many people are actually for gay marriage, or do you think that more of them are actually more scared to speak out against it because of where they work or coming down with society?
I really don't, honestly. I don't understand why what someone decides to do in their personal life and with their relationships affects you and your faith in any way, shape,
They're
or
out on the
It
streets
literally
parading their
spits on the
sin.
face
That's
of my
a little bit
faith.
different.
It literally spits on the face.
You're spitting on the face of someone else's faith.
But their faith is
godlessness.
wrong.
You worship the devil.
But this is America. We are a Christian nation.
No, we are not.
That is our right.
Yes, we are.
Not
We
anymore.
were
This is
built on
God's land.
Christianity. I will 100% agree we were built on Christianity, but today our Constitution does not say we are going to follow what the Bible says. There's nowhere in there.
But if the founders knew, like Nick said, fuck the Constitution. But if the founders knew about what situation we would be in right now, they would have put it in the Constitution. They would have clarified. They would have clarified in the First Amendment that.
Are you like friends with? Are you friends with Alexander Hamilton or something? Like, do you like talk to him?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I could say the exact same thing about.
They would have said
if I
that
was
freedom of religion is quote, is only for Christians. It's not for atheists
They
and
didn't
Satanists
specify
and
that.
Muslims.
By that logic, I could literally go up to, I don't know, Thomas Jefferson and go, hey, there's this worldwide connection where we can all talk to each other across the world in seconds. They're going to say, oh no, that's awful.
I'm pretty sure
Yes.
if you were to tell the founding fathers that people were, that there was a bunch, like homosexuality marriage was legalized and all this. Like I said, I'm
all right. Let's not do
morally
that.
against it, but I'm not going to be like, crazy mean to you about it. But I'm pretty sure if you were to go back there and tell George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, John Hancock, Benjamin Franklin about all the stuff that's happening now, they'd probably have a heart attack.
They would
The
say,
Constitution.
"Ew, gross."
Like I'm not trying to be.
Disgusting.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying their beliefs. There was so much. Dude, like Christianity was so much stronger back then in terms of a lot of people, even if they weren't Christian.
The Constitution was written to preserve the way of life at the time. And the way of life was a Christian way of life. And a lot of it was communal family living, multi-generational households, and stuff like that.
Changed. Get over it.
In a bad
No.
way. Change is not
You're-
change. Some change is bad, some change is good. We need to revert to something that is good rather than what is bad.
Of what
We
you're
need to become
saying
who
is
we
your
are.
opinion.
So do you not believe that the Constitution is a living document? I'm
No.
playing devil's advocate.
It's not alive. It's a piece of paper.
No, I know that, but I mean,
I
do you
would rip it up. I
No,
would say no
understand
more of
that,
this.
but I mean, like,
So I
do you
just-
believe that the
I can't-
Constitution like grows and should change with time, or do you think it should stay the same, or what?
Human nature doesn't change.
Right? No. That's not what I'm asking. Like, do you think the
exactly.
Constitution is a
I
living
think that
document
human nature
and
doesn't
it's
change.
supposed to live, not literally live as an animate object, but it's supposed to live as a document, be able to change over time. So,
But why does it need to be that
I'm not
significant?
saying I
Like,
agree.
why place the Constitution above the Bible? Like, other nations exist and can live with their morality. Like,
No, I understand that.
secular,
I'm not
secular
saying
church.
I agree with that. I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm asking what you guys think.
I mean, outside of the Constitution and liberalism, the founding fathers were great advocates for natural law. It's very clear that putting your dick in another man's butt is against natural law.
And we went there. I knew somebody was going to go there. So
Well,
we-
I could actually get into the science behind homosexuality, but I
Oh,
know.
yeah?
Bruh. Can we just stop? How do we always circle
Sounds
back to being
gross.
gay?
Move on to a new.
But be like, wait a minute, but I'm
Can I bring up a
gay.
new topic?
No, you
So-
guys
Bring
can
up a
talk
new
about. Oh, you're gross. How would you do that? But like,
it's gross.
There's a
Just
present.
cut it out.
I'm not. You guys
Cut
are
it
going to
out.
talk about it. I'm going to talk about it too.
I
There's
don't want to talk about it. It sounds
Nah.
nasty.
Yeah, I'm done talking about.
Can we talk about? I have a question.
then
for
let's
you.
talk about the morality. of
Let me.
the
Let's change the subject.
Hey,
Gabby's
everybody-
off of TikTok right
every-
now. We don't know if
hold
she deactivated or if she got banned, but her
Can I
account's
just
on.
can I
She's
as-
annoying. She's in
can
a
I
group
take
chat.
control? I'm about to mute everybody in about 3 seconds. All right, here we go.
They didn't care.
There's so many more hands up, and I'm just gonna level with y'all. It's 4 basically in the morning, so I think I'm gonna take one more question, and we might call it deuces because your boy is tired. So,
Can we talk about electoral college?
Sounds boring.
Yeah,
Dude.
boring.
I'm gonna give you my opinion on the electoral college
Ah.
if necessary. Boom. All right, moving on.
Owned.
Ding.
You know what, Jared Holt? You're so mean.
Dude, we all
Someone clip that.
hate Jared Holt. All my homies hate. I won't put the gun. All my homies hate Jared Holt.
Can we get Kyle Frank in here?
No.
Hey,
Does anybody else think that Grok kid looks like Ansel Elgort?
I don't
think
know
this
who that
kid
is.
Grok
Wait, is that
looks
the
like
dude that
Ansel
did
Elgort.
the? Who's
He was holding up the phone the whole time, I think.
no? But
We need
isn't
conflict. Let's bring in somebody who disagrees.
we have
I
2
wanna
that
see
do, but we're not going.
an
We're not going to
argument.
get any.
Are there any barbs?
What about gun control?
Tried to find one, but there-
Gabby's off of
Lucas-
TikTok. No
Lucas
one
is a
cared.
barb.
No
Lucas
one
is
cared.
barb, but not to the aspect, thankfully, that others are. So
I just listen to Nicki Minaj music, and then people decided to take that and dox.
politically, yeah, they said
Wow.
Nicki
People are
Minaj 2020. I was like, dog, I will move. I love America, but God, I will move.
Fatty. Pan Fuzza had a question and he was
I-
muted the whole time when you got to him, I guess. But
I-
All right, hell yeah. Okay, well,
All right, let me turn my computer audio down because you're deafening me at 5 or 4.
sorry about that, but it's sorry about that. My mic was muted. But I have some statements on this little debate about who's the true Americans. Now, of course, knowing you being from the great state of Tennessee, yeehaw.
Hell yeah, brother, praise Dale.
You know, I'm going to keep it simple.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep it short. Pretty much, America has always been a white nation, will always continue to be a white nation, and that the current state of the American, so the state is controlled by the people and the people is controlled by the state. The thing is that the current American state is not for the American people. It's owned by non-Americans promoting non-ideas. And I think it's to the point to where in our natural identity, we have a revolutionary identity. And to a point, if there comes to be where there's no political solution, which in my own opinion, I don't believe there is a political solution that can help us in these troubling times, but I believe that
Continue, I want to hear this statement.
Yeah. I think in American way, since the state is against us, I think, if violence does come to an answer, I think violence should be used against them.
Are you a boogaloo?
He's a fad, dude.
Nah, I'm not a fed.
Are we supposed to buy an illicit firearm off of you in a parking lot or something?
No, like I can tell you what I am. I'm just gonna.
Revolution begins now. Just buy this firearm off me.
Let me put it to you this way. Are you one of those? Let me ask you this question. Are you one of those people? If you're not with me, you're against me type deals? I'm asking honestly.
No, I'm not. And I'm not the kind of person. Now, I'm not telling you my entire ideology or what I believe in due to the optics. And I know that some people you.
I already know you work for the CIA.
On my Zoom, didn't you say you were like a proclaimed fascist?
Now, of course, I know some people are streamings, and I'll keep my optics down. But it's
dude, you know.
Outta here.
I could turn your video off, and you could say something. You can barely see your face anyway.
It's like I had a mask, but I took it off because screw it. But no, yeah.
I have a question for you, bud. No, shoot, I can't call people bud anymore.
We're
not
snowflakes.
Glowing like Jaden's fish tank.
Right, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you?
Go ahead, Tori. Sorry.
You're like anybody who's not. I was like I kind of low key spaced out. So anybody who's like not American, because you said it's a white nation, which is majority white. You can't deny that. It's a fact. Like, are you saying like anybody of like a different race, even though they were born here? Or are you saying like an immigrant coming here?
Dude, I'm with you, fatty. I'm with you, dude.
No, I'm not one of those siege guys who say race war now kind of guys. Now, of course, I respect every race, but I know
All right,
that.
can we get this cringe lord out of here?
I mean,
no,
ask him a question. I want to ask him a question.
All right.
So what revolution are you talking about? Because if your revolution ends up in my front porch, I'm going to put your head on a pike out in the middle of my driveway.
I'm not, well, I'm not advocating for, any kind of, I don't want a revolution. I don't want something like that to happen. But I know that if for some reason a political solution doesn't work, that it would be only way to truly be able to do it is either for revelation or pure collapse.
Okay.
Now, of course,
man likes genocide. Thank you for the question.
I'm not genocide. I don't believe in genocide. I'm not advocating for genocide. I respect every single race, but but you can call me a white.
If our way of America leaves, you're for all right. We're gonna take America back by force.
Yeah.
Well, I'm okay.
Dude, I don't know other way.
Dude, no joke. You killed the vibe. Thank you, sir. Can we on to the next?
Jesus. Thank you, sir.
Take him out of here. Get out.
That's not the last question for the night. Holy Lord Jesus.
Patty, I got a question for you, my guy.
Hope he doesn't come after me. Psychopath.
What?
Okay, so just like for Fatty, I don't know these people. Okay. I know like Lucas is obvious, like, oh, that's really nice, HW. Lucas is
a wood gun. This dude probably sticks it up his butt at night.
He's
All
getting
right.
he's putting on the school mask.
All right, continue on.
Oh, yeah, like what do you identify as? Like a Republican?
I told you he was a fascist.
I am a conservative.
Okay. Nick?
Bruh. What a goof.
He literally said that he was a proclaimed fascist on my Zoom, so just putting that out there.
He's he just threw up a Roman on the
Yeah.
You have a hoorag? Dude, I bought one of those when I was 5'2".
You should just kick him from here.
Yeah, take his coat.
Well, I love how people like that like to join political dialogue to say that they reject political dialogue, right?
Yeah.
we need a revolution, but right, everyone's with me too. It's kind of a contradictory
I
suggestion.
mean, you and your 3 members of your army can go start a revolution. I will happily sit and picnic on a hill as I watch A10s absolutely abolish the God, spread you into red mist as you flow over the meadows and just freaking fertilize the fields.
I would love to see what
gladly
you guys would
watch that.
say.
I will watch the 150 millimeter howitzer rain down on you and absolutely decimate you and create lakes that I can fish out of. Please,
You want to
entertain me.
It's so funny. You can instantly tell that they're Wignet. You can just instantly tell.
Dude, like
The
you ever
physiognomy,
been through
man. They're
TikTok
just
and you
always
look at the white
a
nationalist
freak. He's back here in the dark.
Does he have a legitimate response though? Do we want to let him respond or no?
Let's do it. Add some spice
Nah,
to the game.
All right, so here's the thing. Well, I'm not advocating I'm not trying to kill you or kill anybody. I want people to be on my side. Now I'm saying this in response to, maybe I don't want a war. I don't want revolution. That's the last thing I want. I want a political solution, but of course I'm not really a groiper. I'm not, one of these libertarians or anything like that. Man, what Patriots said, yes, I am a fascist, and I don't mind admitting it.
Get out of here.
Well, I would just say, I'm glad you said you're not a groiper.
Opinion sucks.
I'm glad you said you're not a groiper, but I would just say that, we should think about being practical. And I would just say, labels like that and talk like that, I would just question the efficacy of that if we want to achieve our goals. And if you say you want to avoid violence, if we're going to have a nonviolent solution in the country, to me, to pursue that, it's mutually exclusive with talking like that or presenting yourself like that. And I would just say that, as from a groiper to a non-groiper, I would simply say, I understand the idea that the government does not work for the people. I was on board with you there. The government doesn't work for the people. I'm with you.
And
They're
I
against
respect
the
that.
people explicitly. And as somebody who's trying to change that from within, you disagree that there's a political solution, I would just say that, when you look at the government, how powerful it is, and the military and the police, the efficacy of a strategy like that, or frankly, talking about it, trying to gain popular support for that, even if you're for that, I would just question the efficacy of that. That's all I'm going to say.
I respect your decision, sir. And it's what I have to say to that is that personally, I don't believe a revolution will actually be able to succeed. But if it comes to ends to where, maybe a collapse might not happen, and then we just get to the point where pretty much all of our ideas are being put down, we're getting into pretty much on levels of like pure authoritarianism on the sense of like they're going to come into your home, bust your door down, shoot you with your gun, shoot them with your gun. And it's like it's getting to the point where it's you're being put down for being white, you're being put down for being American, you're being put down for being Western. And of course with my ideology, it comes with there's a very, very big identity on nationalism, there's a very big identity on people.
I have a question.
That comes yes.
What was your deal with holding up the white power hand? What was that?
It's not the white power hand, it's actually the Roman salute, if you knew that.
I know it's a salute, but what were you trying to do there?
I don't know, because I got muted for saying shit.
I think he's trying to get me in trouble.
You can't talk about
Well, I would just say,
because I had relatives that died in the war, absolutely trying to wipe the earth off from your kind of people.
Exactly.
I'm not a Nazi, but I'm not a Nazi. There's a difference between a fascist and a Nazi.
Are you a white
You know what? The pot calling the kettle black is something crazy, ain't it? It's absolutely insane.
Like, I don't mind if okay, you can call me a white nationalist. I don't mind, because here's the thing. I'm not advocating for pure supremacy. I'm not advocating for anything like that. I'm not advocating for genocide.
2 = 5. It just doesn't work.
Were you anti-diversity?
I'm so confused.
Am I anti-diversity when it comes to race? Yes.
Why?
You just said you were respectful towards every race. How is that?
I am respectful towards race, but I believe that since my family has been here since 1724. That's a very long fucking time. We fought in the Revolutionary War, we fought in Civil War, we fought in almost every single war that has to be. Now, we're going to the stage of to where our history is being erased. Our people are being demonized in our entire history. It's like, oh, you're white, you're bad. You own slaves. You did this. You killed thousands of Africans. You killed thousands of these people. And I don't believe that, our people should have to go for that. I don't believe that our people should have to be a minority, has to be a demonized in a country we built.
Right. I understand that.
I
But
agree with
you
that,
said you
but I
respect all
also
races.
agree with the fact that fascism is not the way to go, my guy.
Yeah.
It's like, and I respect your
I
opinion.
don't get your anti-diversity. Like, not all minorities and of race, not minorities, I should say, not all other races like put you down because you're white. Like,
Well, it's more of coming from a. Oh, sorry.
I was just kind of confused with the state. You said you respect all races, but then you said you're against race diversity. That kind of contradicts itself.
Okay, so here's my response to that. Because of the fact that for order for a state to work, it has to be majority homogenous. Now, I'm not saying black people can't live within America, Hispanics, Asian, be whatever. It's just they shouldn't be citizens. I believe that they should deserve
Why?
residency because they're not American. In
They're
my
American.
ideology, and they're not American.
What?
Well, good thing it's your
White people aren't just
You know what?
American,
You
dog.
know what? So this Zoom, okay. This Zoom was made so we can hear other people's opinions. Hence how Nick Fuentes got, and I got introduced to all this, and I'm rambling on because my brain can't handle this because it's like trying to do calculus on the ACT. Just won't happen. I'm all for hearing other opinions, but my guy, when you do the whatever, I don't care what you call the salute on my Zoom call at 4 a.m, there is nothing that I want to do than to just give up on humanity and just literally ask you why. And then every time you give me a reason that I don't like, ask you why again. And then at that point, chase you around with a very sharp stick. So I am confused as to how you can be respectful to other races.
Oh, he has a gun too.
Don't.
My guy, I got guns.
Get him
for
out of here.
days.
Get him
and
out.
Here's the deal.
Take his
I'll
coat.
miss. I respect you for having another opinion, but your opinion sucks. And a bunch
fine
of
with that.
Americans died to get rid of that opinion.
Okay.
So
I
to
wouldn't.
you, sir, good
A
night.
bunch of Americans were actually drafted into that war, and actually 91%
That's
of
crazy. You know
Americans.
the other thing too? There's a bunch of black Americans that died getting rid of your kind too. So
Wait, do you like Obama?
No.
Did you mainly
Why?
not like Obama? Oh, did he get kicked?
Yeah.
Hopefully he did.
Oh, I
Jeez.
really wanted to hear what he said about Obama.
I just don't want to get banned,
All he
frankly.
talked about was Hitler and how
I don't want to get
the
banned.
Holocaust was a myth. It was so annoying.
The Holocaust was 100%.
Yeah, it's a myth, guys.
Nick, you
Just
wanted
6
some
million Jews
controversy.
did
There's
that.
your controversy.
I didn't say I wanted controversy. I said I
Someone
wanted
said they wanted
disagreement.
something interesting, and
I said I wanted disagreement, not
There was
not
nothing more than
that.
me wanting to stick my fist through the camera
I
and
didn't
punch
want
him in
Roman
the fucking
How
face.
can you not believe? No, I'm just like serious. How can anybody not believe in like the Holocaust? Like, where
I
did they
agree.
think the 6 million Jews went? Like,
Because
they went to Mars. Duh. What do you think?
Where did they?
Germany built
forgot.
all
I
these
forgot. I forgot
The
there's a
same
space
people who
mission.
are Holocaust deniers are the same people who believe Earth is flat.
What do you mean Earth is flat?
Hollow.
I'm totally playing. Nobody hurt me.
I really hope you were.
It's hollow.
I'll kill you. All right. You know
I like
what?
how he flashed his gun at you.
Jared, who's that person in the pixture? I don't know who that is.
Talking about Jared Holt? Are you addressing Mr. Jared Holt in the Zoom?
Then a hole beside it says
I'm just
shut
gonna
up.
stand at this man's green screen absolutely glitching out for my entertainment.
Wait, who is it? Can somebody tell me?
That's the man down there that now has a beard, and the man who.
Oh my gosh, my buddy Nick. My
Wait,
buddy Nick.
You had such a baby face.
I know.
Holy
He's
crap.
not that old. I think y'all.
I'm
don't-
21.
Yeah, the man's only 2
Hey,
years
Nick,
older than me.
can I ask Nick a question, or are you moving on, Fatty?
Go ahead. What question?
I wanted to ask him about Turning Point. I'm a part of Turning Point, right? And I
Oof,
always
sorry.
I always hear your name get brought up, but I don't know what happened. And like everybody has like bad opinions about you, but like I don't agree with like everything you have to say, but I think you're a nice guy. But I'm curious, what happened?
Wait a second. We have a simp.
Where?
Huh?
We have.
I'll take him out. I got you.
Oh no.
Will you?
Hold on. Wait. Let me. You know what? I don't have a younger sister, so let me do this real quick. Where is this man at? Let me do this.
At least he's got a nice pair of spectacles.
Excuse me,
At least he's got
sir.
that.
Why will it not unmute you? Perhaps.
Hey.
Excuse me, sir. Yes.
Or at least just your snap.
I mean, on
Bruh.
my TikTok and
Hey,
get my
real
snap
quick,
on.
dog. Let me ask you.
self-respect.
Let me
Hello,
ask.
Bring the wig nap back. Get him
Nation.
out.
Hold on.
Unmute Padre Tyrone. Hello, folk solid nation.
Let me ask you this
Oh,
question. Let me ask you
simple
this
part
question.
of folk
Does
salad, huh?
does
Kensley
Zoom
needs to
look like Tinder
disavow.
to you? Does Zoom look like Tinder to you?
What?
Does Zoom look like Tinder to you?
Dude, this was a joke to get me unmuted.
All right. Well, now you're muted.
Hello, folk salad.
All right, my guy.
Interesting.
You know what? I
You
do
know,
like to
bad
hear other
names
people's
of
opinions,
folks.
but I will not like to hear a lot of other like people like that, bro. At 4 a.m, I can't handle.
I thought you were calling me a simp. I was like, whoa, what did I do?
I mean, sure. If you're a simp. All right, fellas.
get
So
this
we have one more.
HW.
So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna ask. We're gonna go to one more question, and if I don't like the question, I'm going to bed. So everybody, fingers crossed. Please, Lord Jesus.
Oh, please ask it. Don't ask a stupid question, please.
You ask a stupid question, I kill you. All right.
Wait, get Nick's simp down there. The one with the person in the green screen. The one that met
Oh,
Nick, and I
really?
didn't know it was Nick, and that's super awkward. Me and Nick, we're friends now. Nick, we're friends.
Yeah.
That kid Ren's had his
Nick,
hand up
you
for a
have
long
gained a
time.
best friend. All right. Libertarian. Am I pronouncing this correctly?
Oh, hey, how you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. I saw your background and I saw the name and I was like, hopefully this will give me hope that we can still have interesting conversations.
Yeah, I'm a communist.
Okay.
Do you know what that means?
Yes.
All right. I'm also a libertarian.
Okay.
You know what that means?
Yeah, my guy.
All right. I had two questions. One of them was for you, and the other one was for that Mr. Nicholas Fuentes guy.
Okay.
Somebody told me that there was a cute girl from Montana in here. That's where I live.
Okay, calm. You do what you're saying.
Let me full screen. Why won't they let me go?
Finish strength to not kill this man right
All right.
I mean,
My
he
second.
kind of looks underage, but
Hold on.
All right, never mind.
Yeah.
My second question.
Brian moment.
I'm a libertarian. You got to give me a break.
It's typical libertarian.
The second question is for Mr. Nicholas J. Fuentes.
Yeah.
we got the J in there.
Do you think that do you think that you know, I've talked to a lot of people, you know, in Turning Point USA. I'm in Turning Point USA, and you know, a lot of us are like very sympathetic to Nick and the Groypers, and I was just wondering if you thought that there was like anything that we could do to like maybe, I don't know, fuse those two worlds together and sort of, or you know, if we could sort of, I don't know, help in any way.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's true. Yeah, there are a lot of I'm glad you brought this up. Is it what's the name, Matt?
No, my name is Libertarian.
Oh, okay, I was reading someone else's thing. Yeah, so there are a lot of people in Turning Point that are sympathetic to the Groypers. I get this all the time. People would say, "Oh, I can't. I'm too afraid of Charlie Kirk. I'm afraid of Benny Johnson." What they would say, how they would react if they knew, you know, that I was sympathetic to the Groypers. And I would say that the number one thing that they could do is if they're a chapter president, they could get in touch with Jada McNeil and talk about starting an America First Students chapter on their campus for the fall semester. And other than that, I would say just to spread the ideas. You know, you got to be careful in Turning Point not to get kicked out. And the easiest way to do that is to be way too open about your sympathies. We saw that during the Groyper War. So I would say that if you're a Groyper sympathizer, I would, you know, begin to share some of your inquiries or ideas with your fellow Turning Point members and see how they react. Be tactful, of course, as always. But try not to get yourself kicked out, because I think that being in a rank and file Turning Point person is a great way to meet other young people, other young conservatives, young politically minded people. And we want to remain in that position, but while also winning hearts and minds. If you get too hot right away, you're going to be out of the game, and then you've got nobody to talk to, nobody to influence, no doors to open. So you want to kind of get the best of both worlds, where you can have one foot in one world and one in the other. And that involves a little bit of tact and a little bit of smartness about how you go about it. But I think that's the best approach.
It's all game.
Wait, so
Yeah, that
Nick,
makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah,
Nick,
you're
what is
welcome.
your
Now it
Nick,
works,
what is
of
your
course.
political affiliation?
Me?
Yeah.
He's a
I'm a
groiper.
paleo-conservative.
Okay.
It's a
I'm a
groiper.
groiper.
Yeah.
I don't even know what a groiper is.
I identify as a groiper.
What is a groiper?
It's like
Right.
a Pepe
Like a
derivative
fish
that's very
or
cozy.
No, it's not cozy.
It used
That's
to
a
be.
different one.
I'm so confused as these graphics that you were playing in the back of your screen there, my friend.
Oh, me?
No, dude, the guy that, yeah, bro, what?
Bro, I like you, man. I don't know who you are, but you're cool. Are you on Twitter?
Are you
I'm
like 30?
I'm not that active on Twitter. I mean, I'm gonna start being, but it's
Wait,
Twitter
are
is
you
my
like
name. and then-
libertarian? Are you 30?
No, I'm 21 years old.
Oh my
Dude,
god,
why
that's
why
so
do I look
awkward.
older than everybody that's older than me? I'm so confused.
Wait, Fatty, how old are you, Fatty?
I'm 19.
Oh, me too. You look like you're like 21.
You're 19, Fatty.
Yeah.
15
You do look
strong.
older. It's the beard. You got a serious beard there.
I'm a Viking. It just comes
Based.
naturally.
Same.
Here we go. Now
Extremely
look, watch,
based.
cats can be based Viking,
Wait,
based
so I
Viking.
can-
Yeah, get great.
It is. It is.
With the-
Hyperborean, golden race.
Everyone's
I
like,
don't know,
Fatty's
man. You
19,
keep
what?
denying it, and then you just keep doing shit that's very groiper-esque. You're very based.
He's
you
a
have good
groiper.
gut
He's
instinct.
a physical groiper.
Dude, I'm just
Gotta come home.
I am
The
just
Chad, I will not listen to your study. I'm going with my gut instinct on this.
I am just a Christian conservative. That is what I am. I
That's
to hear
all
other
we
people's-
are.
I'm a Christian conservative, likes to hear other people's opinions. That's all it is, man. And I'll respect your opinion unless you do something stupid, aka the dude I kicked because that dude is a moron.
Yep.
Oh yeah. You know, I feel bad for those kids. They gotta just chill out.
Well, Fatty, thank you for staying up so late to host this with us.
Yeah, man.
Who's
Alright.
HW?
Good night, everybody.
Guys.
Good night,
think-
libertarian.
I think
Night,
conservative
everybody.
hype
Good
house.
night, everyone.
I think conservative hype house is going to take a break from zooming. I might just zoom Fatty's lounge. We can do this that way. I can hear like everybody and everybody's stupid comments that they have to say and not get the group in trouble. I'm not actually in the group, but I still don't want to screw anything up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we can take even stupider questions. So, and I know stupider isn't a word. I'm just waiting for the chat to say you stupid is a word.
You have to have the chat disabled, which makes it very sad.
Not that chat. There's a reason that chat stays disabled.
Bro,
Because
chat loves you, bro. I don't know what you're
chat,
talking
and
about.
I tell you what, I scrolled for 30 seconds and it was just hard R.
What? No.
Is this getting posted anywhere or no?
Huh?
Is this getting posted anywhere?
This Zoom?
Yeah.
I'm not recording that hoe.
No, don't. I'm
When I
ugly. I
first
don't
one didn't
do
have my
that.
first and last name, so I was like,
Yikes factor.
Well,
Well,
guys,
I'm gonna get
pop
off. I'm gonna plug myself. Twitter's Fatty Actual, TikTok's Fatty Actual. I'm getting hated on for TikTok. I literally duetted of this gay dude making.
I just followed you on.
I knew he was joking, and I made it. And I'm getting like they're hating on me in the comments for some reason. I might need a groiper group to come, just a squad.
Yes.
Squad.
We
Just
will
come
fall in
and-
line. We will
and
help
It's
you.
help me out a
real.
little
It's
bit.
We are your
real.
greatest friend and your
Greatest
worst enemy.
ally.
Look, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. But I wouldn't consider us enemies.
your profile picture has the Viking, right?
Huh?
Your profile picture has the Viking, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, never mind. Got it.
Okay, I'm
Seriously
popping off.
though.
Bye,
Seriously,
guys.
Nick, new merch when?
Soon. We're working on it.
Soon.
We're hard at work. Next week, maybe. Next week.
Save your subscriptions.
Bye,
Just buy
fatties.
the
Let's
next
say
one.
bye next
Night,
one.
y'all. Take care.
All right, I'm gonna end the meeting.
Bye bye.